Chapter 1668, Immense Lifeforce. Chapter 1668 Immense Lifeforce. Great Rain Summoning. Patriarch Fei Lang of Penglai Island waved his trident and pointed it at Su Zimo, releasing a greater divine power. Boom! 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 Thunder rumbled, and in the blink of an eye, dark clouds filled the skies above Su Zimo. The next moment, a downpour showered down. This was no ordinary rainwater. Every single drop of rain was condensed from an extremely powerful divine power. Like needles and swords, they could penetrate a cultivator's body. Great Wind Summoning. Diyun of Chaos Essence Sect took out a horsetail whip from his storage bag and waved it toward Su Zimo, causing a wild wind to howl from the flat plains. This was the astral wind above the 9 heavens. It could pass through the 5 organs and even destroy a cultivator's essence spirit. Cultivators with lesser cultivation realms would be blown apart by the great wind summoning, leaving nothing but corpses. Roar. On the other side, the golden-haired battle corpse roared and charged towards Su Zimo with a menacing expression. The other Mahayana patriarchs attacked as well. Instantly, countless divine powers tore through the air with a massive might as sand and rocks flew. Su Zimo had a fearless expression as his blood chi surged with the sound of a tsunami. A green glow burst forth and blocked the incoming downpour. Beep! Beep! The rain fell continuously as though it was endless. Before long, it penetrated the green glow and landed on the green lotus true body. Patriarch Fei Lang's eyes lit up. Without the protection of the green glow, his greater divine power was enough to kill Su Zimo. Clang! 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 However, when the raindrops landed on the green lotus true body, not only did no blood appear, they shattered, and the crisp sound of jade striking could be heard. Although the great winds summoning dispersed the green glow around Su Zimo, it could not injure the green lotus true body at all. Su Zimo's figure stood in the wild wind without budging at all. His eyes were frighteningly bright and he was filled with a chilling killing intent. What? Patriarch Fei Lang's eyes widened and his pupils constricted. His greater divine power could not injure Su Zimo's green lotus true body. Swoosh! With a flash of golden lightning, Su Zimo's figure vanished from the spot. The next moment, Su Zimo arrived before Patriarch Fei Lang. Patriarch Fei Lang reacted extremely quickly as well and conjured a gigantic wave beside him, protecting his body completely as he tried to distance himself. Kill! Su Zimo hollered and released a sound domain secret skill. Swoosh! The torrential wave dissipated instantly against the vibration of Su Zimo's sound domain secret skill. Patriarch Fei Lang's figure was completely revealed as well. His eyes were bloodshot and 2 streams of blood oozed from his ears. He was dealt a huge blow. Kill! Patriarch Fei Lang hollered as well and waved his silver trident with both hands, piercing towards Su Zimo. The gigantic halberd was filled with an extremely powerful divine power. Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid. He reached out with his fair palm and grabbed the tip of the 3-pronged halberd. No matter how Patriarch Fei Lang channeled his blood chi and divine powers, the halberd did not budge in Su Zimo's palm. Die! Su Zimo hollered and gripped the tip of the halberd. He exerted strength and pushed forward viciously. The trident slid out of Patriarch Fei Lang's palm and its tail pierced his chest, causing blood to spew. The tremendous power ruptured Patriarch Fei Lang's chest. The difference in strength was too great. Su Zimo flicked his finger gently and a heaven-slaying sword chi burst forth, tearing through the air. Patriarch Fei Lang's essence spirit had just escaped and was killed before it could form a physical body. A perfected Mahayana patriarch was killed by the green lotus true body on the spot. This scene shocked the Mahayana patriarchs present. Although Patriarch Fei Lang was not an expert on the divine power ranking, he was also at the perfected Mahayana realm and had comprehended more than 10 greater divine powers. However, he could not defend against Su Zimo's attacks. With the slight delay Su Zimo spent to kill Patriarch Fei Lang, many lesser and greater divine powers smashed down. The Green Lotus true body had nowhere to run. Bang! 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 Against so many divine powers, Su Zimo's Green Lotus true body could not stand in midair and was drowned instantly, smashing heavily onto the ground. Sand and gravel flew everywhere as a human-shaped pit was formed on the ground. Is he dead? Desolate Marshal shouldn't have died yet. I didn't see his essence spirit escape. It's fine. Even if he's not dead, Desolate Marshal will definitely be severely injured. That's right. If we can't kill Desolate Marshal with this wave of attacks, we'll just release another wave of attacks. If 2 won't do, we'll use 10. Even if we have to drag things out, we can exhaust Desolate Marshal to death. Many Mahayana patriarchs discussed as they closed into the pit. Fufufu. Right then, mocking laughter sounded from the pit. Su Zimo stood up slowly from the pit. Although his green robes were tattered and he was filled with injuries, his eyes were still frighteningly bright. You're still laughing? Patriarch Biyao of Heavenly Dipper sect grit his teeth. We'll make sure you can't even cry later. Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo shook his head gently and mocked, you guys are still too weak. Under the gazes of many Mahayana patriarchs, the wounds on Su Zimo healed at a visible speed. In the blink of an eye, those injuries healed. Su Zimo had already recovered to his original state. The expressions of many Mahayana patriarchs changed slightly. The bloodline of Mahayana patriarchs was extremely strong after experiencing the baptism of divine powers. However, injuries caused by dermic treasures would have divine powers lingering in the wounds. As such, it would take a long time to recover from those. Many patriarchs had never seen someone recover with the same speed as Su Zimo. Everyone, attack! Desolate Marshal must be stalling for time. Diyun reminded hurriedly and attacked right away, releasing another greater divine power. At the same time, he waved his horsetail whip and whipped Su Zimo. Bang! 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 Many Mahayana patriarchs reacted as well and channeled their essence spirits once more, releasing lesser and greater divine powers. Many divine powers blanketed the skies and could not be avoided. Once again, Su Zimo's figure was drowned by many divine powers. Many patriarchs could clearly see that the many divine powers had smashed onto Su Zimo, they even saw blood splatter. A moment later, the power of divine powers dissipated and the patriarchs focused their gazes. In the desert, Su Zimo crawled up slowly and shrugged his neck. His body was filled with wounds and there were at least 100 of them. However, the wounds were filled with green glows and healed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the Green Lotus true body had returned to normal. Pust! The many Mahayana patriarchs gasped. His regeneration capabilities and immense life force had already surpassed their understanding. Chapter 1669, Attack of the Yu Emperor. Chapter 1669 Attack of the Yu Emperor. After the creation Green Lotus grew to grade 8, even many greater divine powers could not shake its foundation. Even if it was injured, the powerful life force in the creation Green Lotus would circulate on its own and its injuries would recover in the blink of an eye. The surrounding Mahayana patriarchs were secretly alarmed. If this continued, they would be exhausted to death before anything happened to Su Zimo. Aren't you guys here to snatch the human emperor's seal? Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo slapped his storage bag and said slowly, now, I'll let you guys have a taste of the might of the human emperor's seal. In Su Zimo's palm was a gigantic seal. It was pitch black and cold with defined edges, emanating an ancient and powerful might of the Emperor Dao. Boom! Su Zimo tossed his palm and the human emperor's seal descended from the skies, smashing towards Patriarch Biyao of Heavenly Dipper sect with a terrifying might. Patriarch Bayao's expression changed. The human emperor's seal was a massive weapon of Tianhuang mainland and even emperors of the primordial races would be smashed into a bloody mist against it. Although Su Zimo was at the mid-stage Mahayana realm and could not release the full might of the human emperor's seal, Patriarch Biyao did not dare to fight him head-on and turned to flee. However, while he was fast, the speed of the human emperor's seal's descent was even faster. Swoosh! A large shadow enveloped down. Before the human emperor's seal landed completely, the immense pressure had already descended and Patriarch Biyau's speed was greatly reduced as though he had fallen into a swamp. Patriarch Tyrant Yu's face was pale. Seeing that he could not escape from the range of the human emperor's seal, he did not have time to think and swung the saber in his hands, slashing down viciously at the human emperor's seal. Boom! Boom! The human emperor's seal descended and the ground shook. Patriarch Tyrant Yu was smashed into a meat sludge by the human emperor's seal and died. When Di Yun saw that, his expression changed with a hint of fear. However, he was not afraid. That was because as long as time passed, the emperor of the Di clan would arrive here. At that time, even if Su Zimo had the human emperor's seal, he would be suppressed mercilessly by the emperor. More and more Mahayana patriarchs gathered here. Among them were some Mahayana patriarchs of Snowdrift Valley, Overlord Palace, and Dipankara Monastery. Fellow Daoist Desolate Marshal, don't worry. I'll help you. A patriarch of Overlord Palace carried a gigantic spear and walked towards Su Zimo. Count me in. A patriarch of Snowdrift Valley stood out as well. After the 10,000 race meet, not all the super sects in Tianhuang mainland were enemies with Su Zimo. For example, Snowdrift Valley, Overlord Palace, and the 6 Buddhist monasteries had immense respect for Desolate Marshal. It was not only because the eternal human emperor passed down his title. More than that, Desolate Marshal stood out at the 10,000 race meet and led many humans to fight against the primordial races. It was also because Desolate Marshal had selflessly given them malevolent spirit fruits. In the hearts of many Mahayana patriarchs, Desolate Marshal was this generation's human emperor. Thank you for your kind intentions, fellow Taoists. There's no need for you guys to attack. Just stand by and watch. Suddenly, Su Zimo declared. The many Mahayana patriarchs of Overlord Palace, Snowdrift Valley, and the other factions paused and hesitated, not understanding why Su Zimo did not let them interfere. Boom! Another loud bang sounded. Su Zimo had controlled the human emperor's seal to smash another Mahayana patriarch to death. Bang! 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 Di Yun and the other Mahayana patriarchs attacked one after another and released another wave of attacks towards Su Zimo. However, they could not injure the foundation of the Green Lotus true body. On the contrary, under Su Zimo's control, the human emperor's seal barged through the crowd. If they were struck head-on by the human emperor's seal, they would turn into a blood mist. If their essence spirits were any slower in escaping, they would die on the spot. Even if they were only scratched by the human emperor's seal, their tendons and bones would definitely be snapped. Although Di Yun was an expert ranked 33 on the divine power ranking, he could not fight the human emperor's seal head-on and could only rely on the horsetail whip in his hands to try his best to neutralize the power of the human emperor's seal. Su Zimo carried the human emperor's seal and charged towards Di Yun in huge strides. Many Mahayana patriarchs were wary of the power of the human emperor's seal and avoided it, not daring to advance. The two of them were in a standoff in the chaotic battlefield. 33 on the divine power ranking? Su Zimo sneered, I'll remove you from the divine power ranking today. Mountain lift. Di Yun did not dare to be careless and channeled his essence spirit hurriedly, conjuring a greater divine power. Waving his horsetail whip, he moved a gigantic mountain from afar and charged towards Su Zimo. Shatter. Su Zimo raised the human emperor's seal and smashed it towards the mountain. Boom! Boom! Sand and gravel flew everywhere. Compared to the gigantic mountain, the human emperor's seal was incomparably tiny. However, it shattered the mountain peak into countless boulders that fell one after another. Su Zimo passed through the dust clouds of sand and gravel and charged towards Di Yun. Moon chase. Di Yun's expression changed slightly. Not wanting to fight Su Zimo head-on, he turned and fled at a frightening speed. Mountain Lift and Moon Chase were two greater divine powers. The former focused on strength, while the latter was a divine power of movement speed. Root. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and murmured. With each step Di Yun took, thick roots would grow from the void beneath his feet and coil around his ankle. Of course, this was only a lesser divine power and could not restrict Di Yun's figure. Di Yun channeled his blood qi and could regain his freedom with a slight struggle. However, those roots still had a huge impact on Di Yun. Under the constant disruption, Di Yun's speed gradually slowed down. As for Su Zimo, he closed in rapidly with his heavenly feet and said coldly with a murderous aura, "I think the Di clan is tired of living in the ancient battlefield. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish." As he said that, Su Zimo tossed the human emperor's seal in his hands and smashed it towards Di Yun. Great protection technique. Di Yun roared and divine powers emanated from his body, forming an impenetrable barrier around him. Boom! The human emperor's seal smashed down. With a snap, the human emperor's seal shattered the great protection technique and the aftershock collided with Di Yun, shattering his body into pieces. Di Yun's essence spirit had escaped. Die. Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he closed two fingers and conjured a sword art, prepared to kill Di Yun on the spot. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying might descended and the entire battlefield suddenly fell into silence. All the Mahayana patriarchs looked up with shocked expressions. The might of the Emperor Dao. An emperor had arrived personally. "You emperor, save me!" Di Yun exclaimed hurriedly when he sensed the aura. It was the emperor of the Di clan, Di Yu. "Desolate marshal, hand over your life." Suddenly, a gigantic palm descended from the void, covering the skies as it grabbed towards Su Zimo. An emperor had taken action personally to suppress a mid-stage Mahayana. There was no doubt about the outcome at all. The patriarchs of Overlord Palace, Snowdrift Valley and the other sects suddenly thought of a possibility. Did Su Zimo stop them from interfering earlier on because he had predicted this? Chapter 1670, Annihilation and Rebirth. Chapter 1670, Annihilation and Rebirth. Su Zimo's expression was calm and he was not surprised at all. The storyteller had long reminded him that emperors would attack him in the ancient battlefield. At that moment, Di Yun's essence spirit fled into the distance. If Su Zimo wanted to avoid the attack of the Emperor Yu, he would not be able to kill Di Yun. Su Zimo's gaze was cold as he ignored the gigantic palm that descended from the skies. Closing two fingers, he released dozens of heaven-slaying sword qi instantly and encircled Di Yun's essence spirit. "Desolate marshal, you." Di Yun's essence spirit's expression changed. Initially, he thought that he had already managed to escape. Di Yun did not expect that Su Zimo would disregard his own life and the attack of an emperor just to kill him here. Under normal circumstances, a single heaven-slaying sword qi was enough to kill a patriarch's essence spirit. In order to kill him completely and prevent him from escaping, Su Zimo released dozens of heaven-slaying sword qi and sealed his escape path completely. TSK. 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 Countless sword qi weaved together to form an impenetrable sword net the size of a palm that enveloped Di Yun's essence spirit. "Desolate marshal, you won't be able to survive either if you kill me." Di Yun roared. The next moment, his essence spirit was minced by countless heaven-slaying sword qi on the spot and died. At the same time, the emperor's palm descended and slapped Su Zimo's green lotus true body heavily. That was the power of an emperor. It was fused with the power of a supreme divine power. The difference between them was too great. Although the creation green lotus was strong, it merely underwent the baptism of lesser divine powers and was far from the peak of grade 8. The Yu Emperor slapped down and shattered the grade 8 creation green lotus almost instantly, causing it to explode on the spot with blood splattering everywhere. Many Mahayana patriarchs had conflicted expressions when they saw that. Some of them gloated, some of them stayed out of things while others revealed pity and sadness. Desolate Marshal was the successor chosen by the eternal human emperor after all. To think that he would be killed by an emperor just like that after just advancing to the mid-stage Mahayana realm. Suddenly, a streak of light flew out from the shattered blood mist of the green lotus true body and sped into the distance. Many cultivators watched with widened eyes. The streak of light was a scroll. Within the scroll was a storage bag, a pitch-black seal and an essence spirit. That scroll is the human emperor's Dharmic edict. Some Mahayana patriarchs who had been to the 10,000 race meet recognized the scroll right away and exclaimed, "Desolate Marshal isn't dead." Another person said in a deep voice, although his green lotus true body was destroyed, his essence spirit hid in the human emperor's Dharmic edict and escaped. Condense. Right then, Su Zimo's voice sounded from the human emperor's Dharmic edict. In the blink of an eye, the green lotus true body was formed. The life force of the creation green lotus is way too strong. It can be reborn with a drop of blood after being destroyed by the power of an emperor. I heard that before Desolate Marshal entered the Mahayana realm, this green lotus true body could already use blood rebirth. Now that he's already at the mid-stage Mahayana realm, his regeneration capabilities are naturally even more terrifying. Su Zimo's body recovered to normal and his face was slightly pale. He sprinted into the distance as fast as lightning and wings flapped behind him, emitting electric arcs. At the same time, he released boundless golden light and heavenly feet and other lesser divine powers at an extremely fast speed. Many Mahayana patriarchs released their full strength hurriedly and followed, wanting to see the final outcome. Humph. The figure of the Emperor Yu appeared in the firmaments and exuded a tremendous might. With a cold expression, he said coldly, "You're trying to escape under my watch?" As an emperor, it was already embarrassing for him to not be able to kill Su Zimo with a single attack. It would be way too embarrassing if Desolate Marshal were to escape. Bang! With a fling of his robes, a horsetail whip tore through the air and 3,000 silver threads whipped Su Zimo like 3,000 terrifying whips. The 3,000 silver threads seemed to cross the void. No matter how fast Su Zimo escaped, he could not escape from the whipping of the 3,000 silver threads. Poof! That horsetail whip was the Destiny Emperor weapon of the Emperor Yu. When such a powerful power whipped Su Zimo, the green lotus true body turned into a blood mist instantly and more than half of the life force in his body was minced by the 3,000 silver threads. Su Zimo did not use the human emperor's seal to defend. He knew very well that although the human emperor's seal could withstand the whipping of the emperor's horsetail whip, it could not withstand the power of an emperor and he would still be severely injured. Furthermore, if he summoned the human emperor's seal, it would fall right into the hands of the Yu emperor. The Emperor Yu would definitely snatch the human emperor's seal right away while he had no way of fighting for it. The green lotus true body was destroyed by the horsetail whip of the Emperor Yu and more than half of its life force was destroyed. However, a portion of his bloodline was wrapped within the human emperor's Dharmic edict by Su Zimo as he fled from the battlefield. Su Zimo's essence spirit, storage bag and the human emperor's seal were all hidden within the human emperor's Dharmic edict. Condense. Su Zimo called softly. In the blink of an eye, the green lotus true body was formed once more. The Yu emperor's expression darkened completely. Although he destroyed Desolate Marshal's green lotus true body twice in succession, he could not kill Desolate Marshal on the spot. That enraged him. Chaos Essence Grotto. He channeled his essence spirit and waved his hands. Suddenly, the void in front of Su Zimo collapsed and a gigantic, dark hole appeared, spinning continuously with a powerful suction force. Su Zimo's expression changed and he stopped in his tracks. However, the gigantic cave was filled with an extremely domineering divine power. Even if he wanted to stop, he could not control his body and was pulled towards the cave. That's the supreme divine power, Chaos Essence Grotto. I heard that once you fall into Chaos Essence Grotto, it's dark and you can't sense time and space. Even Dharmic treasures will be minced into dust and turned into nothingness, let alone cultivators. That's right. Once you fall into Chaos Essence Grotto, don't even think about coming out alive. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was devoured by Chaos Essence Grotto. The surrounding Mahayana patriarchs shook their heads gently. In their opinion, Desolate Marshal was already a dead man. Su Zimo felt an extremely terrifying power tear, squeeze and distort his green lotus true body within Chaos Essence Grotto. He could not defend against that power at all. Poof! In the blink of an eye, the green lotus true body was minced by Chaos Essence Grotto. The human emperor's Dermic edict reappeared and protected Su Zimo's essence spirit and a portion of his bloodline hurriedly. If Su Zimo's essence spirit was the only thing that was protected and the bloodline of his green lotus true body was minced by the Chaos Essence Grotto, he wouldn't be able to use blood rebirth. Condense. Su Zimo channeled blood rebirth. The green lotus true body condensed once more. However, he could not break free from the shackles of Chaos Essence Grotto. The moment his green lotus true body was formed, it was minced by Chaos Essence Grotto and turned into a blood mist. The green lotus true body was destroyed once more. The human emperor's Dermic edict opened up to protect Su Zimo's essence spirit and bloodline. Fufu. When the Yu emperor saw that, he sneered, "I'll destroy you every time you're reborn. Let's see how many more times your green lotus true body can be reborn." No matter how strong the life force of the green lotus true body was, there was a limit. The green lotus true body was destroyed continuously and his blood chi was severely drained. Continuous blood rebirth took a huge toll on Su Zimo's essence spirit. Each time he reconstructed his body, Su Zimo's face would turn paler. However, there was still no hint of panic on his face. Instead, he was extremely calm. As the green lotus true body was destroyed and reborn, Su Zimo's eyes shone with a bright glint, as though he was comprehending something. Chapter 1671, Late Stage Mahayana. Chapter 1671, Late Stage Mahayana. The creation green lotus stole the creation of heaven and earth and had many mysterious aspects to begin with. When the creation green lotus was at grade 7, in its complete form, it was merely a lotus platform. Even then, it could nourish Su Zimo's essence spirit and allow him to release many dermic arts continuously. At its peak, divine powers similar to blood rebirth could even be derived. Now that the creation green lotus was at grade 8, Su Zimo could already sense the obscurities within. The creation green lotus contained many greater divine powers to begin with and even supreme divine powers. Of course, Su Zimo was only at the mid-stage Mahayana realm right now. Even if he was the green lotus true body, it was unrealistic for him to comprehend supreme divine powers. However, in Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven, the green lotus true body was destroyed and reborn continuously due to the supreme divine power of the Yu Emperor. During this process, Su Zimo's comprehension of his greater divine power deepened. To a certain extent, he was a humanoid creation green lotus. It was the easiest for him to comprehend the divine powers produced by the creation green lotus. Even after 10 breaths, Desolate Marshal isn't dead? That can't be right. Even the number 1 of the divine power ranking wouldn't be able to withstand that supreme divine power and would have died a long time ago. Many Mahayana patriarchs caught up and discussed softly. "I don't believe you're not dead." The Yu Emperor channeled his essence spirit continuously and the world within Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven spun. A terrifying power tore through the green lotus true body and ground away every inch of flesh and life. Great healing technique. Right then, Su Zimo's voice sounded from Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. An extremely massive divine power spread from the spinning Grotto-heaven and endless life force surged out. The green lotus true body had already reached its limits after so many destruction. However, right then, Su Zimo comprehended a greater divine power of the creation green lotus and instantly, a tremendous life force burst forth. In the blink of an eye, the green lotus true body was formed once more. Su Zimo had experienced the baptism of a divine power storm in the Kunlun ruins. The divine power storm was a healing-type divine power storm. There were other greater divine powers within the creation green lotus. However, Su Zimo had the deepest comprehension towards healing divine powers and comprehended them first. The Yu Emperor frowned and his gaze froze. He could clearly sense that Desolate Marshal could not hold on for much longer in his Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. However, he had not expected Desolate Marshal to survive in the blink of an eye and comprehend a greater divine power. Furthermore, it was the great healing technique. The Green Lotus true body was initially at the end of its road. However, after releasing the great healing technique, the Green Lotus true body was filled with vitality and all its injuries were healed. The power of the greater divine power baptized the Green Lotus true body and black-haired essence spirit continuously. The power of Su Zimo's body, bloodline and essence spirit rose rapidly. Under the stimulation of that tremendous life force, the creation Green Lotus grew rapidly as well. Each time it underwent a divine power baptism, the creation Green Lotus would grow slightly. The strength of the Green Lotus true body was only revealed after the baptism of a greater divine power. Initially, the power of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven could destroy the Green Lotus true body instantly. But now, the Grade 8 Green Lotus true body could defend against the power of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. The Green Lotus true body was covered in injuries and fresh blood flowed. Flesh was torn endlessly, revealing the jade green bones and organs within. However, the great healing technique also healed the injuries of the Green Lotus true body wildly. Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven could no longer destroy the Green Lotus true body completely. He had merely comprehended a single greater divine power right now. If he comprehended more greater divine powers and continued to cleanse his Green Lotus true body, Su Zimo could not imagine how his body would grow as the creation Green Lotus grew. Su Zimo gripped the human emperor's seal and smashed it towards the entrance of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Boom! Boom! No matter how strong Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven was, it could not crush the human emperor's seal. The human emperor's seal created a passage within Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and his figure flashed. He followed behind the human emperor's seal and escaped from Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven rapidly. Ha 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 ha. Although Su Zimo was covered in blood, he still reared his head in laughter. It's all thanks to you that I'm able to comprehend a greater divine power in such a short period of time and advance to the late-stage Mahayana realm. This Desolate Marshal has just entered the mid-stage Mahayana, but he already managed to comprehend a greater divine power so quickly? After all, it's the creation Green Lotus that stole the creation of heaven and earth. Coupled with the fact that the human emperor passed down his title and gathered the fortune of the world, it's only logical for his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. He's actually making use of an emperor to break through. His boldness. Many Mahayana patriarchs had just arrived when they saw this. Su Zimo knew very well that even though he had comprehended the great healing technique, it was only a greater divine power. He was no match for an emperor who had comprehended supreme divine powers. He broke free from Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven and burst into laughter before turning to flee. The divine power of the great healing technique was still baptizing Su Zimo's body, bloodline and essence spirit continuously. This time round, after he condensed ethereal wings, channeled Zephyr Thunder escape and burst forth with boundless golden light as well as heavenly feet, his speed was even faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared before everyone. Many perfected Mahayana patriarchs present could not catch up to Su Zimo even with their full strength. Desolate Marshal has too many escape techniques. One of them should be the heavenly feet of the Buddhist monasteries. If this divine power is cultivated to its limits, it will be a greater divine power. One can literally tunnel through every single spatial node and reach any single part of the world. Given Desolate Marshal's attainments in Buddhism, it won't be long before he cultivates heavenly feet to become a greater divine power. Even if you've comprehended a greater divine power, you won't be able to escape my grasp. The Yu Emperor's expression was terrible as he roared. With a single stride, he crossed thousands of feet in the blink of an eye and charged towards Su Zimo with a terrifying speed. Before long, Su Zimo and the Yu Emperor had already left the Mahayana patriarchs far behind. Desolate Marshal, you can't escape. The Yu Emperor had a mocking expression and seemed like he was strolling idly. However, every single step he took crossed the voids and closed in rapidly towards Su Zimo. This was a greater divine power that could shrink the ground into inches. Swoosh! The Yu Emperor attacked and his horsetail whip tore through the air, letting out a howl. 3,000 silver threads spread and whipped down, not giving the Green Lotus True Body any space to dodge. Bang! The Green Lotus True Body somersaulted and more than half of his flesh was extracted, making him look extremely miserable. However, Su Zimo could still smile. You're already afraid. You know very well that if you're already unable to kill me after I comprehended a single greater divine power, the day of my return will be your death anniversary. Green light spewed out from Su Zimo's body with immense vitality. The flesh that was whipped off by the horsetail whip regrew rapidly and his injuries were healing. Su Zimo did not engage the Yu Emperor and continued escaping. Now that the crux of the matter had been pointed out by Su Zimo, the Yu Emperor was even more determined to kill him and chased relentlessly. Su Zimo lowered his head slightly with a cold glint in his eyes. He did possess methods that could kill emperors. However, that was his trump card and he did not want to expose it right now. However, if the Yu Emperor insisted on chasing, he would have to use his trump card to kill the Yu Emperor here. Chapter 1672, Exit of the Prime Body. Chapter 1672, Exit of the Prime Body. Su Zimo sprinted ahead. The Yu Emperor chased closely behind. The distance between the two of them was getting closer and the killing intent in Su Zimo's eyes was intensifying. Suddenly, an extremely evil aura suddenly descended and Su Zimo's bloodline could not help but stir, as though it was about to spill out of his body. Su Zimo's expression changed. That was the aura of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Su Zimo widened his eyes and channeled his heavenly eye. Crossing the voids, he caught sight of a figure 5,000 kilometers away. Although the figure was a little blurry, he recognized it instantly. Monk Daming. Monk Daming was giving him a hand. Ugh! Behind Su Zimo, the Yu Emperor suddenly grunted and paused. He staggered as though he was greatly affected. Without hesitation, Su Zimo released his heavenly feet and burrowed underground. His body was shrouded by a Buddhist light and he seemed to have fused with the mud as he tunneled underground without any resistance. That was the power of heavenly feet. Once heavenly feet was cultivated to become a greater divine power, one could tunnel far away within the 5 elements. This time round, after Su Zimo escaped, he could sense that the Yu Emperor did not catch up to him. Before long, he left the Yu Emperor behind completely. Su Zimo was puzzled. However, the danger was not over yet and Su Zimo did not think too much about it. He changed directions and sped towards Monk Daming. Given his speed, he arrived before long and leaped up from the ground, looking at Monk Daming who was not far away. Just as Su Zimo was about to thank Monk Daming with cupped fists, he realized that the latter's figure was gradually dissipating and turning into nothingness. Su Zimo lowered his gaze and saw the words on the ground, "See you on the divine power ranking." Monk Daming had long left and what remained was his phantom along with those words. Although it was a short statement, Su Zimo could sense Monk Daming's fighting spirit. It was only at this moment that Monk Daming truly viewed Su Zimo as his opponent. Those words were also a declaration of war. It had nothing to do with grudges. In this generation, anyone who could encounter an opponent close to their level would be delighted and want to compete. Prior to this, Monk Daming had always been ahead of Su Zimo. Towards Su Zimo, it was always similar to how a senior would look down upon a junior. But now that Su Zimo had comprehended a greater divine power and advanced to the late-stage Mahayana realm, Monk Daming knew that Su Zimo was qualified to be his opponent. Su Zimo looked at those words and suddenly smiled. Monk Daming would not have expected that the two of them had already fought when they were at the half-martial ancestor realm. Of course, that was the martial Dao prime body. This Green Lotus True Body had yet to engage Monk Daming in a hearty battle. Even Su Zimo was looking forward to it. Suddenly, Su Zimo frowned slightly and recalled the doubt he had earlier on. When he saw Monk Daming earlier on, his cultivation realm was only at the late-stage Mahayana realm. How could a late-stage Mahayana monk Daming affect an emperor? Even the Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra did not have such power. Furthermore, when Monk Daming released the Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra earlier on, Su Zimo felt uncomfortable as well. His bloodlines seemed to have broken free from his control and wanted to break out of his body. Su Zimo pondered for a moment but came to no conclusion. He suppressed that doubt in his heart for the time being and sped forward after determining his direction. Now that Su Zimo had advanced to the late-stage Mahayana realm, he was prepared to look for a secluded and safe place to enter seclusion once more to comprehend the other greater divine powers of the creation Green Lotus. The Dharma characteristic ranking was held once every 1,000 years. The divine power ranking was held once every 10,000 years. It had been close to 10,000 years since the previous divine power ranking. The divine power ranking would open up again in around 300 years. In that 300 years, he had to comprehend as many greater divine powers as possible so that he could fight Monk Daming. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, the Yu Emperor stood in the air with a changed expression. His eyes flickered with shock and fear. Just who in the world was that? Impossible. The Yu Emperor narrowed his eyes with a strange blood glint. After pondering for a moment, he could not come up with an answer. Taking a deep breath of air, he sneered, "Desolate Marshal, you can escape for now, but not forever. The only way is if you do not appear to fight for a spot on the divine power ranking. Once you do, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. There won't be any accidents next time." When Su Zimo came out of seclusion this time round, he fought against many Mahayana patriarchs and even attracted the attack of an emperor, causing quite a stir in the ancient battlefield. However, things calmed down gradually with Su Zimo's disappearance. The ancient battlefield returned to normal. However, all the patriarchs knew in their hearts that once Desolate Marshal reappeared, another bloodbath would definitely break out in the ancient battlefield. The Yu Emperor would definitely not let Desolate Marshal off. There was no room for negotiation between the two of them. If the Yu Emperor could not kill Desolate Marshal, his death would come the day the latter becomes an emperor. Tianhuang Mainland. When the Green Lotus True Body entered seclusion once more, the Martial Dao Prime Body that was in Pingyang Town exited his seclusion. Now that he was out of seclusion, the Martial Dao Prime Body had already entered the Mahayana realm. For the Martial Dao Prime Body, the most normal cultivation method was to enter the ancient battlefield and comprehend divine powers there. However, that way, the path of the Martial Dao Prime Body would be no different from the Green Lotus True Body. Furthermore, there was another place that might be more suitable for the Martial Dao Prime Body than the ancient battlefield. Of course, this place was also extremely dangerous. The Martial Dao Prime Body looked to the west. "Young Master, are you leaving?" Tao Yao arrived beside the Martial Dao Prime Body and asked softly. Over the years of cultivation, Tao Yao had already cultivated to the conjoint body realm and became a grand demon. Under normal circumstances, apart from seclusion cultivation, one had to head out to train and fight against many strong foes. One could only break through bottlenecks better through countless life and death battles. After all, there was only a single person in history that could make use of the Martial Dao furnace to smelt all dharmic arts and nurture 100 sutras, a single variant like the Martial Dao Prime Body. However, Tao Yao was even stranger. He did not have to fight with others. However, his cultivation would increase bit by bit just by staying in this tiny courtyard in Pingyang Town. It was neither fast nor slow, but there were no bottlenecks. The Martial Dao Prime Body could not understand it either. However, in the eyes of the Martial Dao Prime Body, this was not a bad thing. After all, Tao Yao had never liked to fight. Although Tao Yao had fought with others up till this point of his cultivation, his palm had not been tainted by a single drop of blood. "I'm leaving." The Martial Dao Prime Body nodded slightly. "There's no need for you to follow. Stay in Pingyang Town and protect the citizens well." "I will, don't worry, young master." Although Tao Yao's eyes were reluctant, he nodded obediently. Chapter 1673, Divine Powers Refinement. Chapter 1673, Divine Powers Refinement. Kunlun Ruins. This was a forbidden ground for all Mahayana patriarchs. This day, a purple-robed man arrived. His face was blurry as though he was shrouded by a fog. The martial Dao prime body looked at the ruins not far away and walked forward with a deep gaze. He passed through the outer perimeter of the Kunlun ruins and arrived before the Kunlun barrier. Without hesitation, the martial Dao prime body broke through the Kunlun barrier and entered the Kunlun ruins. The moment the martial Dao prime body entered the Kunlun ruins, the entire Kunlun ruins trembled as though it was agitated. Divine powers began to gather around the martial Dao prime body and rapidly formed a divine power storm that engulfed the latter. The divine power storm contained an extremely terrifying power that destroyed the body of the martial Dao prime body. It destroyed all life, as though it wanted to destroy everything. Unlike a healing divine power storm, this divine power storm possessed a terrifying killing power. Although it was only a lesser divine power storm, blood scars appeared on the surface of the martial Dao prime body's skin the moment the storm descended. The body of the martial Dao prime body could take on dermic treasures head-on and was not weaker than any divine weapon. However, he was covered in injuries from the envelopment of the divine power storm. There was no fear in the eyes of the martial Dao prime body. Instead, they shone brighter. Refine. The martial Dao prime body hollered. Whoosh! His figure seemed to have vanished and in its place was a gigantic furnace. The martial spirit fire burned furiously, wanting to refine the divine power storm. The two powers intertwined continuously. The divine power storm wanted to extinguish the martial spirit fire while the martial spirit fire wanted to incinerate the divine power storm. This time round, the martial Dao prime body was not smelting dermic arts, but divine powers. Going to the ancient battlefield to observe, comprehend, and cultivate various divine powers was way too slow. Furthermore, if he headed to the ancient battlefield to comprehend divine powers, the martial Dao prime body would not be able to avoid fighting for the divine power ranking and he would definitely be exposed. If he comprehended divine powers step by step, the martial Dao prime body might not even be comparable to the Green Lotus true body. That was because the creation Green Lotus was an utmost treasure of the universe and contained divine powers to begin with. It was closer to the universe and coupled with the fact that the human emperor passed down his title and gathered the fortune of the world, its cultivation speed was naturally extremely shocking. If the martial Dao prime body wanted to raise his combat strength as soon as possible, he could only take an extreme path. Since the martial Dao furnace could smelt all dermic arts, why not divine powers? As long as a divine power was smelted completely, it would be equivalent to having that divine power fused into the martial Dao furnace, becoming one with the martial Dao prime body. The divine power storm and martial spirit fire were still fighting. Neither side was willing to back down. At the most dangerous moment, the body of the martial Dao prime body was already destroyed. The remaining martial spirit fire was almost dispersed by the divine power storm as well and turned into an extremely weak wisp of flame. If the martial spirit fire was extinguished, it would be equivalent to the death of the martial Dao prime body. Up till this point of his cultivation, the martial Dao prime body had never encountered such a dangerous situation. However, the martial Dao prime body did not show any fear. Instead, his gaze turned firmer. While smelting the divine power storm, he tempered his Dao heart and determination. After a long time, the power of the divine power storm gradually weakened. The light of the martial spirit fire intensified. The martial Dao furnace had finally gained the upper hand. After another long period of refinement, the divine power storm around the martial Dao prime body gradually disappeared. To be precise, it did not disappear. Instead, it was completely refined by the martial Dao furnace and became a part of it. The power of the martial Dao prime body had increased significantly as well. The figure of the martial Dao prime body appeared and channeled his blood qi. The wounds on his body healed in the blink of an eye, Right then, the martial Dao prime body felt something strange and looked over instinctively. Unknowingly, powerful living beings had gathered around him. The commotion attracted many Kunlun clansmen. Those Kunlun clansmen widened their eyes and looked at the martial Dao prime body, completely scared out of their wits. Apart from Desolate Martial in the past, this was the first time they saw someone walk out alive from a divine power storm. Even in the past, the reason why Desolate Martial was able to survive the divine power storm was because of immense luck. He only managed to survive by chance because it was a healing divine power storm that collided against the power of the Sword of Misfortune. But now, the purple-robed mysterious man fought against the divine power storm with his own strength and survived. In the end, even the divine power storm could not hold on and its power dissipated, vanishing. At that moment, the many Kunlun clansmen did not realize that the power of the divine power storm had not dissipated at all. Instead, it was smelted and fused into the body of the martial Dao prime body. "Intruder, who are you?" a Kunlun half-martial ancestor asked in a deep voice. The peak half-martial ancestor experts of the Kunlun race followed Night Spirit to Tianhuang mainland to break through and were staying in Ethereal Peak for the time being. More than half of the remaining Kunlun clansmen stayed here to guard the Kunlun ruins. If anything happened in the Rainbow Cave above the God-slaying valley, they would inform the Kunlun Lord, Night Spirit, right away. The martial Dao prime body ignored the surrounding Kunlun clansmen and continued towards the Kunlun ruins. "Let me remind you," the Kunlun half-martial ancestor said in a deep voice, "there are many divine power storms here and what you just experienced is only one of them. If you trigger a greater or supreme divine power storm, you'll definitely be shattered into pieces." "Is that so?" The martial Dao prime body murmured softly and suddenly released a divine power from his body. The power released caused another violent fluctuation in the Kunlun ruins as tremendous divine powers gathered around the martial Dao prime body once more. In the blink of an eye, 2 divine power storms were formed. Is he a lunatic? He even took the initiative to trigger a divine power storm. "Everyone, keep your distance and don't get implicated." Many Kunlun clansmen shouted and retreated, afraid that they would be implicated by the divine power storms around the martial Dao prime body. They had lived in the ruins for countless years and had never seen anyone like this. Others would want nothing more than to avoid divine power storms. This person actually took the initiative to trigger them. 2 divine power storms were formed and the martial spirit fire burned once more. The martial Dao furnace appeared and smelted the power of the divine power storms. Up till now, the martial Dao prime body was still extremely careful and did not dare to trigger a greater divine power storm. However, as time passed by, after the martial Dao furnace smelted enough lesser divine power storms, the power of his body and furnace would reach its limits. At that time, he could attempt to smelt greater divine power storms. Eventually, he would smelt the supreme divine powers here. There was no place more suitable for the martial Dao prime body than the Kunlun ruins. The divine powers contained in this battlefield were much richer than in the ancient battlefield. More importantly, the martial Dao prime body did not have to worry about being exposed here. The Kunlun clansmen within could not get out because of the Kunlun barrier, while intruders wouldn't be able to enter or even use their spirit consciousnesses to detect what was happening within the Kunlun ruins. Not only did the martial Dao prime body want to hide from the primordial races, he wanted to hide from the even more terrifying and mysterious existences of Tianhuang mainland. Chapter 1674, Hunting Patriarchs. Chapter 1674, Hunting Patriarchs. Time passed by quickly. It had been 300 years since Desolate Martial appeared in the ancient battlefield. In the past 300 years, although there were occasional fights and killings in the ancient battlefield, they did not cause much of a stir. Nobody discovered any traces of Desolate Martial for 300 years. It was as though Desolate Martial had vanished completely after he appeared. As the fight for the divine power ranking approached, the ancient battlefield turned chaotic once more. More and more Mahayana patriarchs gathered towards the region of the divine power ranking. Even some Mahayana patriarchs who were in seclusion cultivation came out of seclusion one after another and rushed over. The divine power ranking was only held once every 10,000 years, and it was a rare opportunity. If one could obtain a spot on the divine power ranking and obtain the inheritance of a greater divine power, it might be even greater than the increase in strength after countless years of seclusion. Furthermore, there were some empty spots on the divine power ranking this time round. For example, Matriarch Yu Luo of Heavenly Dipper sect and Patriarch Fei Duan of Malevolent Earth sect died at the 10,000 race meet. 300 years ago, Di Yun, who was ranked 33 on the divine power ranking, died at the hands of Desolate Marshal. In the past 10,000 years, even more spots opened up. Some of them died in battles in the ancient battlefield, while some of them comprehended supreme divine powers and became emperors, relinquishing their positions on the divine power ranking. Of the 36 spots on the divine power ranking, 11 were now empty. The fight for those empty spots would definitely be intense. As for some Mahayana patriarchs, they wanted to make use of the divine power ranking this time round to raise their spots so that they could inherit even more greater divine powers. Even some early, mid and late-stage Mahayana patriarchs who did not have the strength to fight for a spot on the divine power ranking would choose to spectate. For many patriarchs, this was a rare event. At that time, many patriarchs and experts would enter the fray. If they could comprehend a little knowledge because of that, their trip would not be wasted. I heard that the rank 1 of the divine power ranking 10,000 years ago, Jian Shenzi, comprehended a supreme divine power and is now an emperor. Now that he's off the divine power ranking, I wonder who will take his spot. It's definitely Patriarch Qi Huang of Malevolent Earth sect. He's already rank 2 on the divine power ranking for 30,000 years. If he hadn't lost to Jian Shenzi by a single move 10,000 years ago, he would have been rank 1 of the divine power ranking. Before the divine power ranking began, countless patriarchs had already begun discussing and analyzing the situation of the divine power ranking. Not necessarily. Another patriarch shook his head gently. Rank 3 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Ji Lei of Zephyr Thunder Palace, has also occupied the 3rd spot for 20,000 years. I think Patriarch Ji Lei has a high chance of winning this time round. Let's put it this way. Now that the top spot is emptied out, the other 5 of the top 6 all have a chance of fighting for that spot on the divine power ranking. Right then, a patriarch suddenly said, I reckon that Desolate Marshal will definitely appear for the divine power ranking this time round as well. Perhaps he might even get to fight for the top few spots of the divine power ranking. Him. Another patriarch pouted his lips in disapproval. He only comprehended a single greater divine power 300 years ago. After that, he'll only be able to comprehend 1 or 2 more at most. Even with the green Lotus true body, it's already not bad if he can get into the top 20 of the divine power ranking. How can he have the strength to fight for the top few spots? A patriarch at the side agreed. That's right. Notwithstanding the top 6 of the divine power ranking, even the patriarchs in the top 10 have been famous in the ancient battlefield for a long time and have comprehended more than 15 greater divine powers. The difference between them is too great. That's not all. Another person said, don't forget, an emperor of the D clan tried to kill Desolate Marshal 300 years ago but failed. I reckon that Desolate Marshal might not even dare to appear this time round. As the fight for the divine power ranking approached, the changes on the divine power ranking became more obvious. The divine power ranking hovered in the firmaments and scrolls spread out with names written on them, emitting golden lights. Some of the spots were blank, indicating that they were empty. If one were to approach, they would discover that every single spot on the divine power ranking would reflect a gigantic region on the ground that was shrouded by golden light. There were a total of 36 such golden regions beneath the divine power ranking. This was the battlefield of the divine power ranking. Some of the golden regions had Mahayana patriarchs guarding them. If anyone wanted to fight for the spot, they would have to go to that particular golden region and challenge the Mahayana patriarch in its place. Nobody was allowed to interrupt the fight. Every single golden region could only accommodate 2 people. At that moment, there were hundreds of Mahayana Patriarchs gathered beneath the divine power ranking. Mahayana Patriarchs had a lifespan of 100,000 years. These Patriarchs were equivalent to 100,000 years of foundation of the human race. Look! Rank 28 on the divine power ranking has disappeared. Right then, a cry sounded from the crowd and many Patriarchs pointed at the divine power ranking in the firmaments with shocked expressions. What's going on? Some of the Mahayana Patriarchs who arrived later on approached and asked curiously. I heard that recently, Patriarchs of the divine power ranking have been removed one after another, resulting in empty spots. A Mahayana Patriarch explained, that's already 5 in 5 days. Ah! The Mahayana Patriarchs were shocked and they heard that. There were only 2 possibilities if a Patriarch's divine power ranking was removed before the battle of the divine power ranking even began. First, if this Mahayana Patriarch comprehended a supreme divine power and became an emperor, he would naturally disappear from the divine power ranking. However, the probability of that was extremely low. Furthermore, there wouldn't be so many emperors ascending in succession, that was 5 Patriarchs in 5 days. The second scenario was for a Mahayana Patriarch on the divine power ranking to be killed. If they died, they would naturally be removed from the divine power ranking. Someone's hunting Patriarchs on the divine power ranking. Right then, someone said something that exploded in the crowd. Hunting Patriarchs on the divine power ranking. Who was it? Who would have such methods? Desolate Marshal. A Mahayana Patriarch grit his teeth. Desolate Marshal must have done it. Desolate Marshal has reappeared. It's not Desolate Marshal. Right then, another Mahayana Patriarch seemed to have thought of something and revealed a reminiscent expression. A few days ago, I encountered a black-robed man in the ancient battlefield. His long hair covered most of his face and his appearance could not be seen clearly. This black-robed man once asked me about the location of some Mahayana Patriarchs on the divine power ranking. I wasn't bothered at that time. Now that I think about it, there's a high chance that this person was going to hunt down those Mahayana Patriarchs. Who is that? The many Patriarchs were puzzled. Could there be another monster incarnate in the ancient battlefield apart from Desolate Marshal? Right then, another commotion broke out in the crowd. Look! Someone pointed at the divine power ranking with a pale expression and said with a trembling voice, Rank 6 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Scatter Knight, has vanished. Chapter 1675, Gathering of Experts. Chapter 1675, Gathering of Experts. The top 6 of the divine power ranking were the strongest Mahayana Patriarchs in the ancient battlefield. Without extraordinary means, the top 6 wouldn't have been able to kill their way to the top to inherit the supreme divine powers of the eternal human emperor. Nobody expected that one of the top 6 of the divine power ranking would be gone before the actual battle even began. Strange. A Mahayana Patriarch frowned slightly and pondered. There's no pattern to the Patriarchs on the divine power ranking hunted by this mysterious person. Some of them are from Snowdrift Valley. Some of them are from Asura sect while some of them are from Formless Monastery. There are individuals from the Immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sections. What's the background of this person? Why is he hunting Patriarchs on the divine power ranking? Another person said, isn't this person afraid that the emperors of the super sects will attack him in the ancient battlefield? Stop guessing. Once the divine power ranking begins, this person will definitely appear. The fight for the divine power ranking was getting closer and closer. The number of Mahayana Patriarchs around the divine power ranking was still increasing and had already broken through 1,000. A few hundred years ago, when Su Zimo spread the malevolent spirit fruits in Enigma Palace, many half-martial ancestor experts broke through and entered the Mahayana realm, entering the ancient battlefield. Right then, a boom sounded not far away and the ground trembled, as though a supreme expert had broken out of seclusion. Many Patriarchs turned to look. On the horizon, a blazing thunderbolt sped over and arrived above the heads of many Patriarchs instantly, revealing a figure. Rank 3 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Ji Lei. Many cultivators looked at Patriarch Ji Lei with reverence. He was rank 3 on the divine power ranking for 20,000 years and had defeated several strong foes in 2 divine power ranking battles. Fufu. Suddenly, a chuckle came not far away. A figure walked over slowly from midair with a smile and cupped his fists. Brother Ji Lei, how have you been? The crowd stirred. That figure was none other than Patriarch Pai Xian, who was rank 5 on the divine power ranking. Why? Are you still going to challenge me this time round? Patriarch Ji Lei glanced sideways at Patriarch Pai Xian and smirked with a mocking expression. Patriarch Pai Xian was not enraged at all. It's fine, even if I can't do it this time round, I can try again in another 10,000 years. I'm still young, but you're already declining from your peak. You'll definitely lose if this continues. In the divine power ranking 20,000 years ago, Patriarch Pai Xian was defeated by Patriarch Ji Lei. Over the years, the two of them had fought countless times and Patriarch Pai Xian was always the one defeated. The two of them could be considered as old enemies. Right now, they were at odds the moment they met and it was extremely tense. I heard that Patriarch Ji Lei isn't young anymore. He seems to be around 80,000 years old. That's old. Under normal circumstances, he should be in his twilight years at 70,000 to 80,000 years old. However, there's no sign of aging on Patriarch Ji Lei's body and his blood qi is still so strong. Impressive. Some patriarchs discussed softly. The two of you had better save your energy. Another figure appeared slowly in midair. It was a woman with shoulder-length purple hair. She had a long sword on her back and a grim expression. Rank 4 on the divine power ranking, Matriarch Zi Shuang of Purple Firmament Sect. Matriarch Zi Shuang said, the two of you have been in seclusion for many years. I'm afraid you haven't heard of a monster incarnate in the ancient battlefield who specializes in hunting patriarchs on the divine power ranking. Up till now, at least 6 patriarchs have died in his hands. Furthermore, no one knows his background and he's extremely mysterious. Oh. Patriarch Ji Lei thought nothing of it and said indifferently, he's just a coward who's hiding. There's nothing to worry about. Suddenly, the world seemed to have darkened as an extremely repressed aura descended, giving everyone a sense of danger. All the patriarchs present felt suffocated. The patriarchs were all way too familiar with that aura. Rank 2 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Qi Huang of Malevolent Earth Sect. Patriarch Qi Huang walked towards the divine power ranking expressionlessly with a powerful might. The discussions in the crowd gradually disappeared and everyone went silent instinctively. At that moment, apart from those who died, all the patriarchs on the divine power ranking were present. Look, it's that person. Who? The mysterious person hunting the patriarchs on the divine power ranking. The crowd had just quietened down with the appearance of Patriarch Qi Huang when another huge commotion broke out. Even Patriarch Qi Huang could not suppress such a scene. Many patriarchs turned towards the north. A white-robed man strode over. His long hair was scattered casually and covered most of his face. The man only revealed one eye. However, it was deep and bright, as though it was filled with endless wisdom. Anyone who met with that eye would be lost within instinctively. A faint blood scar could be seen on the man's glabella. However, no one connected the scar to the Heavenly Eye race's Heavenly Eye. That was because the ancient battlefield was sealed by a barrier and no one from the primordial races could enter. When they saw the blood scar, many patriarchs merely thought that it was a scar on the person's glabella. That's him. Matriarch Zi Shuang said sternly, I've once seen this person from afar. He's extremely strong and unfathomable. I don't have any confidence against him either. Where did this guy come from? Why haven't I heard of him before? Patriarch Pai Xian frowned slightly. Even he felt uneasy when he exchanged glances with the white-robed man. Patriarch Ji Lei narrowed his eyes and his gaze flickered in deep thought. Patriarch Qi Huang turned around as well and glared at the intruder fixedly, emitting an extremely dangerous aura. Against the gazes of so many experts, the white-robed man walked over casually in a composed manner without any bit of uneasiness. Suddenly, as though he sensed something, the white-robed man suddenly turned and looked towards the east. At that moment, even Patriarch Qi Huang and the others did not notice anything. However, not long after, a figure appeared in the eastern horizon. His green robes fluttered and his black hair fell like a waterfall. His eyes were clear as he rode on the wind. Desolate Marshal. Desolate Marshal is here too. Desolate Marshal is truly not afraid of death. Even those who had not seen Su Zimo personally before could guess the identity of the green-robed cultivator judging from his attire and the powerful life force he exuded. You're here. Su Zimo approached and shifted his gaze, greeting the white-robed man. Everyone was shocked. From his tone, Desolate Marshal seemed to know this mysterious person. Others might not know the white-robed man, but Su Zimo naturally knew in his heart that the mysterious person who hunted the Patriarchs of the Divine Power ranking was Monk Daming. Why did you kill them? Su Zimo frowned slightly and went straight to the point. He could understand if Monk Daming killed Patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect and Penglai Island. However, he did not understand why Monk Daming would deal with Patriarchs of Snowdrift Valley and some other supersections. There shouldn't be any grudges between them. Monk Daming went silent for a moment. The same reason why I wanted to kill you. You mean to say? Su Zimo was shocked. Chapter 1676, Asura Dao. Chapter 1676, Asura Dao. Monk Daming once said that he harbored killing intents towards Su Zimo because the latter cultivated the blood refinement fiend Sutra. The reason why Monk Daming did not appear on Six Stars Mountain the entire time was to test Su Zimo. The reason why Monk Daming did not attack Su Zimo was because even when his life was hanging by a thread, the latter did not use the blood refinement fiend Sutra. Right now, Monk Daming was implying that those people he killed had all cultivated the blood refinement fiend Sutra. What happened? Su Zimo frowned and asked. Monk Daming shook his head gently. The actual situation might be even more terrifying than you can imagine. The conversation between the two of them did not reveal any information and was understood only by both of them. The surrounding Mahayana patriarchs were confused. Are there still people like them on the divine power ranking? Su Zimo asked again. Yes. Monk Daming replied. Su Zimo exchanged glances with Monk Daming and suddenly smiled. The two of them understood what the other party wanted to do without the need to continue speaking. It was a tacit understanding. Although the two of them did not interact much, they seemed like bosom buddies. Right then, a powerful aura descended. A scholar-like cultivator appeared in midair with a square-shaped stone slab on his back. It was unknown what dermic treasure that was. He wore white robes and waved his sleeves. Although he had a sage-like demeanor, he exuded the might of the Emperor Dao. An emperor had descended. Senior Chess Emperor, to think that you'll be the one hosting this divine power ranking battle. In the crowd, Lin Xuanji stood out and bowed to the white-robed scholar. Within the crowd, some of Su Zimo's acquaintances had already arrived. Lin Xuanji, Mingzhen and Demonist Ji had already entered the Mahayana realm and arrived in the ancient battlefield. However, their cultivation realms were only at the early stage Mahayana realm and they could not take part in the fight for the divine power ranking. Su Zimo looked around but did not see the Asura, Yen Beichen. Humph. The chess emperor blew his beard. There's still no news of your master after he ran into the human emperor's palace. As such, I have no other choice but to host it. The chess emperor was another emperor of Enigma Palace. Legend has it that the chess emperor loved chess more than anything else. His favorite thing in life was to specialize in chess and fight with others on the chessboard. In the end, he actually managed to create a Dao that belonged to him. He reached the peak of his chess Dao and fused the legacy secret skills of Enigma Palace with his chess Dao, comprehending a supreme divine power that allowed him to become an emperor. The chess emperor could be considered an anomaly in the cultivation world. That's enough. The chess emperor waved it off. There's no need for unnecessary formalities. Those who want to fight for a spot on the divine power ranking, hurry and fight. Hurry and end it. I still have a deadlock on a chessboard waiting for me to resolve. With a look of impatience, the chess emperor urged the Mahayana patriarchs below. Patriarch Qi Huang, Patriarch Ji Lei and the others moved one after another and led the way into the golden regions enveloped by the divine power ranking. They were ranked on the divine power ranking. If anyone wanted their spots on the divine power ranking, they would have to challenge them. As for the emptied spots, they were free for all the other patriarchs to fight for. Monk Daming's gaze swept past the patriarchs on the divine power ranking and finally landed on a person as he walked slowly towards the ladder. Rank 3 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Ji Lei. Just who is that person? He's actually challenging Patriarch Ji Lei right away. Judging from his cultivation realm, he's only at the late stage Mahayana realm and has yet to cultivate to the perfected Mahayana realm. How strong can he be? I don't know how strong he is. At the very least, he killed rank 6 on the divine power ranking. The surrounding Mahayana patriarchs were merely watching the show. However, Su Zimo was the only one who knew why Monk Daming targeted Patriarch Ji Lei. No wonder Patriarch Ji Lei could possess such strong blood qi despite his almost 80,000 years old lifespan. It's because he cultivated the blood refinement fiend sutra. Su Zimo glanced at Patriarch Ji Lei and turned towards another golden region. Desolate Marshal is prepared to make a move as well. By the looks of it, he seems to be headed for Patriarch Su Jing. Patriarch Su Jing, rank 21 on the divine power ranking. Between him, Fei Duan and Yu Luo, he was the only one who survived the 10,000 race meet. Patriarch Su Jing looked at the approaching Su Zimo with a grim expression and said slowly, "Why? Fellow Daoist Desolate Marshal, are you looking to settle old scores with me?" "Sort of." Su Zimo replied indifferently, "The divine power ranking is a treasure passed down by the human emperor and protects the human race. You're not worthy of being on it." That was his and Monk Daming's choice. Monk Daming chose to remove the patriarchs on the divine power ranking who cultivated the blood refinement fiend sutra. As for him, he chose to remove the patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect and Penglai Island. The both of them were joining forces to remove the impurities of the divine power ranking. Whether I'm worthy or not is not determined by you. Patriarch Su Jing's expression darkened. Desolate Marshal, I might be afraid if it's your Dragon Phoenix true body. Your Green Lotus true body is only at the late stage Mahayana realm. If we fight with our full strength, nobody knows who the victor will be. Is that so? Su Zimo did not stop and entered the Golden Light region. With a huge stride, he arrived before Patriarch Su Jing in the blink of an eye and shouted, "Let me see what you have." Boom! Boom! He flipped his palm and his blood qi burst forth with the sound of tsunami, releasing a torrential might that suppressed Patriarch Su Jing. Asura Dao! Patriarch Su Jing suddenly shouted. A mighty figure appeared behind him like a fiend celestial. It was indomitable with 9 heads, 8 legs and 1,000 hands with a terrifying aura. The Asura Dao was a greater divine power and one of the 6 Daos of the Buddhist monasteries. Legend has it that Asuras were half human half gods who were brave and loved to fight. They were extremely strong. If one could cultivate the Asura Dao, the phantom of an Asura would descend and help cultivators fight against strong foes, causing their combat strength to increase exponentially. Extinguish! Su Zimo's gaze intensified and green glows burst forth from his body, surging into the skies like a sharp sword qi. Before the Asura could materialize, it was pierced by the green glows and dissipated after a momentary stalemate. Patriarch Su Jing's expression changed. The moment his greater divine power was released, it was destroyed by Su Zimo. However, Su Zimo's attack did not stop at all and his gigantic palm descended. Patriarch Su Jing did not have the time to release a second divine power. He swiped his storage bag and withdrew a cold saber, slashing it toward Su Zimo's wrist. Humph. Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid and bent his fingers slightly. With a clang, a few fingernails that were sharp as daggers protruded and dug into Patriarch Su Jing's saber instantly. Clang. There was a crisp sound. Patriarch Su Jing's saber could not advance and was locked by Su Zimo's fingers without budging at all. Shatter. Su Zimo hollered and exerted strength with his fingertips. Crack. 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 Creaks sounded and cracks appeared on the saber one after another. Pust. Many Mahayana patriarchs gasped in shock. Chapter 1677, Book Return. Chapter 1677, Book Return. With just a single palm, Desolate Marshal destroyed Patriarch Su Jing's dermic treasure bare-handed. Nobody expected Desolate Marshal, a late-stage Mahayana, to be this strong. This was the potential of the creation Green Lotus. Over the years, after the baptism and refinement of many greater divine powers, the Green Lotus true body grew rapidly and became stronger. However, this was not the limit and peak of the creation Green Lotus. On the battlefield, the saber shattered and Su Zimo slapped his palm. Many saber shards turned into dozens of cold lights that entered Patriarch Su Jing's body instantly. The two of them were way too close and Patriarch Su Jing had not expected Su Zimo to be able to shatter his saber. He could not react in time. Poof. 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 Blood mists burst forth from Patriarch Su Jing. After a brief pause, his body could not withstand the power contained in the shards and exploded. Patriarch Su Jing's essence spirit escaped and fled into the distance. Humph. Su Zimo sneered, "Do you think you can escape?" Chi. In a flash, a blazing sword beam descended, slicing Patriarch Su Jing's essence spirit into two instantly. Rank 21 on the Divine Power ranking, Patriarch Su Jing was dead. The crowd fell into a momentary silence before a commotion broke out. The battle had ended too quickly. It had been less than 10 breaths since Su Zimo attacked and Patriarch Su Jing died. Right from the beginning, Patriarch Su Jing merely released a single greater divine power and died without the chance to release a second divine power. Is this Desolate Marshal who established the Tao for all living beings? When he saw that, the Chess Emperor in midair nodded and praised. To think that even at the Mahayana realm, you're able to kill experts on the divine power ranking who are above your cultivation realm. You truly live up to your reputation. Su Zimo did not linger in that golden region. Instead, he turned to leave and looked at the patriarchs on the divine power ranking. Patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect and Penglai Island, you can withdraw from the divine power ranking. On what grounds? Patriarch Xing Tian, who was rank 17 on the divine power ranking, frowned. On the grounds that I was the one who said it. Su Zimo said coldly, if you don't withdraw from the ranking on your own accord, you will end up in the same state as Su Jing. Desolate Marshal, it's understandable that you want to fight for the divine power ranking. However, isn't that way too domineering? That's right. Immediately, a patriarch of Malevolent Earth Sect agreed and turned to the Chess Emperor with cupped fists, shouting, Enigma Palace has always been fair and impartial in managing the 3 ranking lists. Senior Chess Emperor, please suppress Desolate Marshal. The Chess Emperor smiled faintly. You're right. Enigma Palace has always been fair and impartial. There's no way we would interfere in something like this. Desolate Marshal is only fighting for a spot on the divine power ranking. He didn't bully the weak nor did he bully with numbers. Why should I suppress him? But Patriarch Xing Tian wanted to argue. The Chess Emperor flicked his sleeves gently. There's no need to speak further. Even if Desolate Marshal wants to remove your names, it's only right. Anyone can leave their names on the divine power ranking. However, patriarchs of your 3 sects are not qualified. When the human race was in trouble, you guys abandoned our race and submitted to the primordial 6 races in order to survive. How can you still have the cheek to occupy any spot on the divine power ranking? Patriarch Xing Tian and the others blushed in shame after being reprimanded by the Chess Emperor. However, all of them were still hesitant to withdraw from the divine power ranking just like that in front of everyone. Right then, Su Zimo moved and walked towards them. The expressions of Patriarch Xing Tian and the others changed as they grit their teeth and turned to flee from the divine power ranking like stray dogs. However, another patriarch from Malevolent Earth sect did not move from the divine power ranking. Rank 2 on the divine power ranking, Patriarch Qi Huang. Boom! Right then, a loud bang sounded from another part of the battlefield, attracting the attention of many cultivators. Monk Daming and Patriarch Ji Lei had already begun fighting. Although there were also patriarchs fighting in the other golden regions, everyone's gazes were still drawn by Monk Daming. Everyone was curious about Monk Daming's background and methods. To the many patriarchs, as long as Monk Daming attacked, they would definitely be able to determine his lineage and deduce based on his methods. However, many patriarchs were disappointed. Up till this point of the fight, Monk Daming had never released any secret skills or divine powers. He suppressed Patriarch Ji Lei completely with his physical body and blood chi. The latter retreated continuously and was completely disadvantaged. The loud bang earlier on was also because Patriarch Ji Lei released a greater divine power that was shattered by Monk Daming's palm. What's the background of that person? He's so strong. He must be from a body-tempering super sect. Could it be Glass Palace, Overlord Palace, or Diamond Monastery? Impossible. Even the body-tempering dermic formulations of super sects are not at such a terrifying level to be able to take on divine powers head-on. Many patriarchs discussed for a long time but to no avail. In midair, the Chess Emperor frowned slightly and murmured, "Who is that? Even I can't tell his background." Interesting. Lin Xuanji's eyes flickered. There's a high chance that this is the person who infiltrated Enigma Palace and stole the Mystic Firmament record. Oh. The Chess Emperor glanced sideways and said in surprise, "The matter of the Mystic Firmament record being stolen was true. When I heard the news, I thought that someone was spouting nonsense. Not only that, I suspect that there's a high chance he's behind everything in Tianhuang mainland in recent years." Lin Xuanji said, "Although Senior Brother Heavenly Secrets deserve to die, there's a high chance he was plotted against by this person." So amazing. The Chess Emperor was even more surprised. After pondering for a moment, he said, "How about we wait a while and I'll find an opportunity to suppress that person and force him to hand over the Mystic Firmament record." "There's no need for that." Lin Xuanji shook his head. The Mystic Firmament record was returned around 300 years ago. Because of the loss of the Mystic Firmament record, the sect's library was protected even more. Apart from the guards on the surface, there are even 2 Mahayana patriarchs guarding the library. And then? The Chess Emperor asked. Lin Xuanji smiled bitterly. Even with those 2 Mahayana patriarchs, nobody knew when exactly the Mystic Firmament record was returned. What did you say? The Chess Emperor's heart skipped a beat. It was no wonder why he was so shocked. Lin Xuanji's words meant that this person infiltrated Enigma Palace once more and returned the Mystic Firmament record under the watch of 2 Mahayana patriarchs. However, he did not attract any attention and left silently. I can understand why this person could steal the Mystic Firmament record back then. Lin Xuanji said, after all, there were no patriarchs guarding the library at that time. Furthermore, the attention of the entire Enigma Palace was drawn over by Desolate Marshal and the others. This person seized the opportunity and took advantage of the situation. At the very least, there were traces left behind when this person stole the book. However, the process of him returning the book was way too terrifying. He was completely unfathomable and left no traces. If not for the routine checks of the disciples of the library that unintentionally discovered the return of the Mystic Firmament record, nobody in the entire sect, not even the 2 Mahayana patriarchs, noticed that someone had been to the library. Chapter 1678, Killing Ji Lei. Chapter 1678, Killing Ji Lei. Lin Xuanji was only half right. Monk Daming was indeed the one who stole the book. However, neither he or the chess emperor would have ever guessed that it was someone else who returned the book. The gaze of the chess emperor landed on Monk Daming once more as he said in a deep voice, "Actually, it's not as though this person did not release any divine powers. At the very least, he has been channeling one of the 6 divine powers of the Buddhist monasteries, heart-peering. Although heart-peering is only a greater divine power, if he manages to cultivate it successfully, he will be able to read the other party's mind and predict the enemy's movements. It's extremely mysterious. Legend has it that the difficulty of cultivating the 2 greater divine powers, heart-peering and destiny, is comparable to supreme divine powers. To think that this person would be able to cultivate heart-peering successfully." Lin Xuanji let out a look of realization. No wonder he could gain the upper hand against Patriarch Ji Lei completely. He could read every single thought of Patriarch Ji Lei and react first. In that case, isn't victory certain for him? This person's attainments in Buddhism must be extremely high. Could he be a monster incarnate of the Buddhist monasteries? I'm not sure. The chess emperor shook his head gently. We can't determine the background of this person just because he cultivated heart-peering. Although he hid it well, I could still sense an extremely evil aura emanating from him. If he hadn't cultivated some powerful fiend technique, there's no way he would reveal such an aura. That's strange. Lin Xuanji seemed to be in deep thought. On the battlefield, Monk Daming had already gained the upper hand and suppressed Patriarch Ji Lei tightly. The latter was almost helpless. No matter what trump cards or divine powers Patriarch Ji Lei released, Monk Daming would be the first to know and prepare. Every single move of Patriarch Ji Lei was sensed by Monk Daming. Patriarch Ji Lei's expression was already a little pale and he was drenched in sweat. Although he was not injured, he endured immense mental pressure. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had fought countless battles in his life, but he had never felt such pressure against someone of the same cultivation realm. Right from the beginning, Monk Daming was calm. Even he could sense that Monk Daming did not use his full strength, let alone the bystanders. It was as though the other party was playing with a child. No matter how he struggled, he was always beaten back to square one by the other party. It was a complete humiliation. Patriarch Ji Lei bore immense resentment in his heart. "Just who are you?" Patriarch Lightning's expression was terrible. As he defended, he grit his teeth and asked, "I don't know you at all. Why are you hunting me?" Monk Daming did not reply and continued suppressing Patriarch Ji Lei expressionlessly. His long hair swayed and revealed his wise eyes from time to time. His gaze was calm and emotionless. "Since you refuse to tell me, don't blame me." Patriarch Ji Lei's eyes shone with a scarlet glint. Suddenly, Monk Daming strode forward and cut in front of Patriarch Ji Lei, slapping his palm on the latter's chest. Crack. Although the palm strike seemed light and weak, it caused Patriarch Ji Lei's chest to cave in deeply. Poof! An arrow of blood burst forth from Patriarch Ji Lei's back. His heart was ruptured by Monk Daming's palm. "You talk too much." Monk Daming shook his head gently. Those who talk more often die faster. Even if one focused their attention in a fight against Monk Daming, they might not even stand a chance of winning, let alone behave the way Patriarch Ji Lei did and attempt to speak. Unless one cultivated a divine power that could multitask, they would definitely be distracted when they spoke. It was inevitable for openings to be revealed once one was distracted. While the openings might be imperceptible, they were magnified infinitely in the eyes of Monk Daming. Strange. Lin Xuanji frowned. Patriarch Ji Lei's heart was shattered. Why isn't his blood chi failing at all? Instead, it's getting stronger. The chess emperor frowned and glared at Patriarch Ji Lei, murmuring, "This aura seems familiar. You are courting death." Patriarch Ji Lei's eyes were bloodshot as he let out a deep growl. emitting a torrential blood chi that resembled a bloodthirsty ferocious beast. Blood chi surged into the skies and instantly, the world went dark and was incomparably evil. Even the golden light of the divine power ranking was suppressed. Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The Chess Emperor and Lin Xuanji exclaimed at the same time when they saw that. Many patriarchs in the crowd recognized the origin of that evil aura and could not help but shudder with wary expressions. Lin Xuanji had a conflicted expression. If not for the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, Senior Brother Heavenly Secrets would not have fallen into the endless abyss and died. Patriarch Ji Lei glared at Monk Daming not far away with a menacing expression and said coldly, "You forced me. Even if I can't survive, I'll kill you first." Patriarch Ji Lei knew that he would be targeted by the other Mahayana patriarchs the moment this matter was exposed. Although he could kill Monk Daming by releasing that fiend technique, he was most likely doomed as well. Monk Daming did not reply and merely smiled. Suddenly, Patriarch Ji Lei froze. He caught sight of a hint of mockery in Monk Daming's deep eyes. It was as though his every move had been predicted by the other party. Could it be? Suddenly, Patriarch Ji Lei's eyes widened as he thought of a possibility. The reason why this person hunted him was because he cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. But, how did this person know? Right then, Monk Daming extended his palm and gripped Patriarch Ji Lei gently through the void. When Patriarch Ji Lei released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, his blood chi was torrential and he was surrounded by fiend chi. However, as Monk Daming retracted his palm, all the blood chi seemed to have been grabbed by Monk Daming's palm and returned to Patriarch Ji Lei's body. Patriarch Ji Lei could not control the entire process at all. Although he was clearly the one who cultivated the bloodline, he could not control it at all. I got it. A thought flashed through Patriarch Ji Lei's mind. He had guessed the truth, but he no longer had the chance to say it. All his bloodline was under Monk Daming's control and even his essence spirit could not release any spirit consciousness fluctuation. Monk Daming closed his palms slowly with a cold expression. All the bloodline in Patriarch Ji Lei's body gathered continuously and eventually compressed into a blood ball with an extremely terrifying power. Monk Daming released his grip. Bang! The blood ball exploded and released a tremendous power, destroying Patriarch Ji Lei's body instantly. Against the burst of the bloodline, his essence spirit could not even escape. It was drowned and destroyed on the spot. Patriarch Ji Lei was dead. The entire world went silent. Many patriarchs looked at everything in disbelief. Patriarch Ji Lei, who had dominated the third spot of the divine power ranking for 20,000 years and even used a trump card like the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, was killed by this white-robed man. Just what was that method released by the white-robed man in the end? Chapter 1679, Suppressing Everything. Chapter 1679, Suppressing Everything. Initially, Su Zimo wanted to look for Patriarch Qi Huang, but he stopped in his tracks to watch the battle of Monk Daming. Monk Daming turned around and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. "I'll wait for you at the top of the ranking." With that said, Monk Daming left the Golden Light region of the rank 3 of the Divine Power ranking and headed for the region of the rank 1 of the Divine Power ranking. There were many patriarchs who hoped to fight for the Divine Power ranking, but none of them dared to challenge the rank 1 of the Divine Power ranking. If they wanted to fight for the rank 1 of the Divine Power ranking, they would have to consider how they compared against Patriarch Ji Lei. At that moment, Patriarch Qi Huang, who was qualified to fight for the rank 1 of the Divine Power ranking, was already targeted by Su Zimo. Rank 4 of the Divine Power ranking, Matriarch Zi Shuang, and rank 5 of the Divine Power ranking, Patriarch Pai Xian, exchanged glances. Tactfully, none of them challenged Monk Daming. After Monk Daming and Patriarch Ji Lei's fight ended, many patriarchs looked back at Su Zimo. Another massive battle could break out at any moment. In the Golden Light region of the rank 2 of the Divine Power ranking, Su Zimo was in a standoff with Patriarch Qi Huang. Desolate Marshal. Patriarch Qi Huang's expression was cold as he said slowly, "You still have to fight against that person later on. It's best if you don't provoke me. If I truly give it my all, you might not stand to gain. By the time you fight that person, you'll definitely lose." "You're mistaken." Su Zimo replied indifferently, "It's useless even if you give it your all." Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo slapped his storage bag and a gigantic pitch-black seal appeared in his palm. It emitted an ancient and powerful aura that caused the void to tremble. The Human Emperor's Seal. If Su Zimo wanted to fight Monk Daming, he would definitely not waste too much stamina and methods on Patriarch Qi Huang. Therefore, he intended to use the simplest and most direct method to suppress Patriarch Qi Huang. Patriarch Qi Huang's pupils constricted. What Su Zimo was wielding was no ordinary dermic treasure, but a massive weapon of Tianhuang mainland. The weapon of the eternal human emperor possessed terrifying strength and could suppress mountains and rivers. 5 Ghost Spirit Rip. Patriarch Qi Huang hollered and channeled his essence spirit, releasing a greater divine power without testing the waters. 5 ghostly figures suddenly flew out from his palms and lunged towards Su Zimo with extremely cold auras. The 5 ghosts were incorporeal and did not fear dermic treasures. Once attached to a cultivator, they would devour the cultivator's essence spirit until the cultivator was dead. Humph. Su Zimo sneered and raised the Human Emperor's seal in his hands before him, shouting softly, "Demons and monsters, disperse." Boom. The Human Emperor's seal shuddered gently and released an extremely domineering aura that swept through the heavens. Although the 5 ghosts did not fear dermic treasures, the power of the Human Emperor's seal had already surpassed the scope of ordinary dermic treasures. Evil divine powers could not deal with the Human Emperor's seal at all. Green light emanated from Su Zimo's body and dispersed the 5 ghosts that were charging over. 7 Luminaries' Finger. Patriarch Qi Huang channeled his essence spirit once more and released a second divine power. He extended his finger and instantly, 7 ancient stars appeared in the skies, descending with endless starlight that gathered on his finger. The 7 stars formed a single thread, causing the power of Patriarch Qi Huang's finger to reach its limits. Su Zimo smiled faintly and tossed the Human Emperor's seal in his hands into the air, smashing it towards the incoming 7 luminaries' finger. Boom! The Human Emperor's seal collided with the 7 luminaries' finger with a loud bang. Immediately after, the 7 stars shattered. Poof! A blood mist spewed and Patriarch Qi Huang's finger was crushed by the Human Emperor's seal. Even greater divine powers could not defend against the power of the Human Emperor's seal. Patriarch Qi Huang grunted dully and a cold glint flashed through his eyes. For Mahayana patriarchs, crushed fingers were merely superficial wounds. In the blink of an eye, Patriarch Qi Huang's finger regrew and recovered. However, right then, a huge shadow loomed over. The Human Emperor's seal carried a shocking aura and suppressed Patriarch Qi Huang. The wind howled and the world trembled. He did not have time to release the second greater divine power and could only slash in reverse towards the Human Emperor's seal. Clang! The saber shattered. No dermic treasure could go against the Human Emperor's seal. Patriarch Qi Huang's expression was terrible as he hurriedly took out a second dermic treasure. It was an ancient mirror that was extremely similar to the Human Emperor's mirror. This was a dermic treasure created to be a replica of the Human Emperor's mirror and possessed extremely strong defensive capabilities. Crack! The moment the ancient mirror was summoned, it was shattered by the Human Emperor's seal once more. A replica dermic treasure could not fight against the Human Emperor's seal. At that moment, divine powers and dermic treasures were useless in the face of brute force. Su Zimo summoned the Human Emperor's seal because he wanted to suppress everything. Swoosh! When Patriarch Qi Huang saw that he could not defend against it, he finally could not hold on any longer. Turning into a streak of light, he released his escaped divine power and fled into the distance. Trap! Su Zimo bit his fingertip and drew a blood-colored circle in the void. The blood-colored circle descended beneath Patriarch Qi Huang's feet out of thin air, forming an invisible barrier that restricted him to the spot. Trap word art, a greater divine power. The chess emperor nodded to himself. Indeed, Desolate Marshal obtained Senior Human Emperor's legacy. After Senior Human Emperor left, that greater divine power was lost as well. Desolate Marshal is the second person ever to cultivate it. After a brief pause, he continued, however, it's strange. There shouldn't be any dermic formulation for the trap word art in the ancient battlefield. How did Desolate Marshal manage to cultivate it? Break. Patriarch Qi Huang released his divine power once more and a malevolent spirit descended. His aura surged and his strength rose as he broke free of the shackles of the trap word art. However, the human emperor's seal had already descended after that single delay. Boom! Boom! There was a loud bang and the ground shook. Patriarch Qi Huang's figure had already vanished and was suppressed beneath the human emperor's seal. A stream of scarlet blood seeped out from beneath the human emperor's seal. Patriarch Qi Huang was dead. This battle ended even faster. Su Zimo did not require much strength and merely controlled the human emperor's seal to kill Patriarch Qi Huang completely. Su Zimo put away Patriarch Qi Huang's storage bag and turned to walk towards the golden light region of the rank 1 of the divine power ranking. Here it comes. The many patriarchs lamented internally and were invigorated. The white-robed man's background was mysterious and unfathomable. His battle against Desolate Marshal would definitely be a fierce one. Most patriarchs thought that it would be best if the two of them fought to the death with an internecine outcome. I'll bet on this white-robed man winning. A patriarch analyzed, this person is way too mysterious. Furthermore, he has yet to reveal his true capabilities up till now. Desolate Marshal will definitely win this battle. Another patriarch shook his head. The human emperor's seal can suppress and sweep through everything. Who can stop it? In midair, Lin Xuanji said, given Brother Su's capabilities, he will definitely be able to force out the full strength of that mysterious person. At that time, we'll know just who in the world he is. The fact that such a monster incarnate could appear in Tianhuang mainland and even escape the notice of Enigma Palace brought about immense displeasure to Lin Xuanji. Chapter 1680, Immovable Mingwang Seal. Chapter 1680, Immovable Mingwang Seal. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the divine power ranking, 7 figures stood in the air and looked in the direction of the divine power ranking. Their gazes seemed to be able to cross the voids and see everything hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. The 7 figures emitted an extremely terrifying aura. Just by standing casually, they exuded the might of the Emperor Dao as though they were looking down on the world. 7 emperors. One of them was the Emperor of Chaos Essence Sect and the D clan, Du. I'll leave Desolate Marshal to you guys. I'll deal with that white-robed cultivator with frost metal and 7 kills. An emperor whose body shone with purple lightning said slowly. The emperor was from Zephyr Thunder Palace and his Dao title was Purple Thunder. The frost metal and 7 kills that he was referring to were on his left. They were from Glass Palace and Sword Sect. The reason why the Purple Thunder Emperor wanted to kill Monk Daming was because Monk Daming hunted down Patriarch Ji Lei and the others on the divine power ranking. The Patriarchs of Glass Palace and Sword Sect on the divine power ranking were not spared either. There shouldn't be any problems if the 4 of you join forces to deal with Desolate Marshal, right? The 7 kills Emperor looked at Du and turned to ask. Du smiled gently. Don't worry. When Desolate Marshal escaped the previous time, it was because of an accident. This time round, with 4 emperors surrounding him, Desolate Marshal won't be able to escape even if he has wings. Leave the chess emperor to me. The person who spoke was the malevolent Earth Sex Malevolent Emperor. All right. Once the golden light of the divine power ranking dissipates, we'll attack. The Purple Thunder Emperor said coldly. At that moment, Su Zimo and Monk Daming were both in the golden light regions. Even emperors would have to spend some effort to break through the golden light of the divine power ranking. Du said, once the two of them are severely injured and exhausted, they will be birds in our cages. Beneath the divine power ranking. Many Mahayana patriarchs were gathered, watching the rank 1 golden light region of the divine power ranking. Even some patriarchs who wanted to fight for a spot on the divine power ranking stopped temporarily and watched by the side, waiting for the rare battle to end before making further plans. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo put away the human emperor's seal in his hands after entering the golden light region. Monk Daming nodded at Su Zimo and smiled. Although Su Zimo had the human emperor's seal, Monk Daming had the human emperor's mirror as well. Su Zimo would not gain any advantage with that weapon. However, Monk Daming's identity might be exposed. By doing that, Su Zimo was doing Monk Daming a favor. Needless to say, Monk Daming understood everything. He suddenly sent a voice transmission with a fake smile. Since you did me a favor, I'll tell you one thing as well. The oriole stalks the mantis as it stalks the grasshopper. You mean the 7 people hundreds of thousands of kilometers away? Su Zimo's expression was calm. We don't know who the mantis and oriole are yet. Monk Daming's eyes lit up as he nodded. Indeed, this was hidden from you. If you can sense it, so can I. Su Zimo smiled faintly. Monk Daming smiled as well. All right, let me see what methods and divine powers you've cultivated all these years. Great sealing technique. The moment he said that, Monk Daming had already attacked. An extremely strange power burst forth from his hands and enveloped Su Zimo instantly. Su Zimo's bloodline churned slower and slower, as though it was about to solidify. The strange power even entered his consciousness and attempted to seal his essence spirit. Thankfully, the black-haired essence spirit was not sealed right away with the protection of the creation Lotus platform. Great sealing technique. To think that this white-robed man managed to cultivate that divine power. Isn't that the greater divine power of the god race? How does he know the cultivation method of the great sealing technique? The crowd exclaimed and many patriarchs were shocked. Some patriarchs who had been to the 10,000 race meet were even more shocked. Back at the 10,000 race meet, even the bloodline of the taboo dragon phoenix was sealed when a patriarch of the god race released that greater divine power. The taboo dragon phoenix was unable to take on his true form or release his peak combat strength. It was clear how strong that greater divine power was. If the dragon phoenix true body had not comprehended the greater divine power, I'm as like a saber, and allowed the power of divine powers to surge into his body to wash away the power of the great sealing technique, he would have been doomed in that battle. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. If the divine power of the great sealing technique was completely formed, he would not be able to break free no matter how torrential his methods were. Ma. Ni. Pa. Me. Hum. Suddenly, Su Zimo opened his mouth and chanted Sanskrit. At the same time, he conjured hand seals repeatedly and released 6 damning dermic seals. The Fiend Suppression Seal, Demon Subduing Seal, Immortal Trap Seal, Immovable Foundation Seal, Great Vajra Will Seal and Great Mount Meru Seal. All 6 damning dermic seals condensed in front of Su Zimo. Condense. Suddenly, Su Zimo hollered and channeled his essence spirit. Under his control, the 6 damning dermic seals changed and released an extremely terrifying power. The power of divine powers descended. The formation of the 6 damning dermic seals was a greater divine power. Suddenly, another gigantic phantom appeared on Su Zimo's figure. It was green and black with a slanted top and skirt. Holding a sword in its right hand and a rope in its left, it stood amidst the raging flames like an immovable mountain. The greater divine power, Immovable Mingwang One Seal. The immovable Ming King had descended. Boom! A tremendous divine power burst forth from Su Zimo's body, purging away the power of the great sealing technique and restoring his blood chi to normal. Su Zimo released the immovable Mingwang seal and dispelled the great sealing technique almost perfectly. A look of admiration flashed through Monk Daming's eyes when he saw that. The fact that Su Zimo was able to cultivate the Daming True Sutra to this realm meant that Daming Monastery had a successor. That fact that its legacy was not lost brought him nothing but happiness and relief. Take a greater divine power from me as well. Su Zimo conjured lotus flowers with both hands and pointed forward. Suddenly, heaven and earth rumbled. A bedazzling light descended from the firmaments. Many patriarchs looked up instinctively and saw an extremely shocking scene. In the skies, jade-green lotus flowers descended one after another before swiveling slowly. Multicolored light filled the skies and everything floated gently. At the same time, Sanskrit sounded from the skies in a shuddering manner. Under such a phenomenon, many patriarchs had dazed expressions and lost their Tao hearts. They nearly knelt on the ground and prostrated to convert to Buddhism. The chess emperor let out a shocked expression as well and murmured, "Legend has it that when accomplished monks of the Buddhist monasteries preach, they can touch the heavens. Even the lotus flowers in the skies will descend one after another. It's only now that I know that they're not lying." This was a greater divine power nurtured by the creation green lotus, heavenly flower fall. Back when Su Zimo entered the Mahayana realm, he attracted this auspicious phenomenon. For him, comprehending that greater divine power was something that happened naturally. Monk Daming raised his head slightly and looked at the lotus flowers falling from the skies. His eyes were still clear, as though they contained endless wisdom. His Buddhism was profound and was not weaker than the green lotus true body. Sanskrit or a phenomenon as such could not affect his Tao heart. Chapter 1681, Earth Gushing Golden Lotus. Chapter 1681, Earth Gushing Golden Lotus. Suddenly, an extremely cold aura emanated from Monk Daming and he emitted a billowing fog as the temperature of the world plummeted. A layer of frost covered the golden light region of the divine power ranking. Boundless frost seal. Monk Daming propped up both hands and a chilling intent burst forth from his palms. Accompanied with a series of crackling sounds, the void froze. The falling lotus flowers became crystalline, as though they were in a frozen lake. With the restriction of the divine power ranking, the range of effect of the divine power naturally did not extend to 5,000 kilometers. However, the entire golden light region was enveloped by ice. Notwithstanding the lotus flowers that fell from the skies, even Su Zimo who was opposite them was swiftly covered by a layer of ice. The phantom of the immovable Ming king behind him was also gradually collapsing. The golden light region was now an extreme frost region. Any dermic arts, divine powers, secret skills or dermic treasures would be frozen. Boundless frost seal. The chess emperor frowned slightly. Usually, only patriarchs of Snowdrift Valley are able to cultivate that greater divine power. Could he be a successor of Snowdrift Valley? That's not for sure. At the side, Lin Xuanji shook his head. We've got to take a closer look. The cultivation techniques and legacies in this person's body are way too mixed and it's probably difficult to deduce. This greater divine power is extremely strong and Desolate Marshal won't have an easy time dealing with it. The chess emperor murmured softly. On the battlefield. When boundless frost seal descended, a layer of chilling ice crystals appeared in Su Zimo's bloodline and his consciousness was filled with coldness. The bloodline of the green lotus true body was about to freeze. In his consciousness, the creation lotus platform spun slowly and the black-haired essence spirit released another burst from his powerful spirit consciousness, forming a second greater divine power. Bang! Suddenly, the ice on the ground cracked and a blinding golden light shone through the crack, radiating brightly. The next moment, a golden lotus flower broke through the ice layer and surged out from the ground. Bang! 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 Immediately after, the sound of ice cracking could be heard from the battlefield. Golden lotus flowers tore through the ground and appeared with a blinding golden light. The frost on the battlefield seemed to have met with a blazing sun and melted one after another. It was another greater divine power nurtured by the creation green lotus, the earth gushing golden lotus. Back when Su Zimo was at Golden Core Realm, he fused three phenomenons and created a golden lotus flower above the turtle and snake. He had long come into contact and comprehended the Tao techniques within the golden lotus flower. Furthermore, he was the creation green lotus to begin with, and there were almost no obstacles in comprehending that greater divine power. At the golden core realm, that golden lotus flower was only condensed from spirit energy, and there was only one. But now, millions of golden lotus flowers were surging out from beneath Su Zimo's feet through the ice. Boom! Su Zimo's blood chi surged and he broke free of the frost on his body instantly. Breaking out of the ice, his gaze burned and his aura rose continuously. Monk Daming's expression changed slightly as he conjured hand seals with both hands and hurriedly channeled another greater divine power. Sunset Flare. With a soft shout, a blazing sun appeared in the firmaments and descended like a gigantic fireball. The gigantic fireball fell to the ground and the entire golden light region fell into a sea of flames, enveloping many golden lotuses as well. You've miscalculated. When Su Zimo saw that, he shook his head gently and smiled. Monk Daming's expression changed as well. His greater divine power could not refine the golden lotus flowers on the ground. Instead, it intensified the aura of the golden lotus flowers and their growth increased exponentially. The reason why he released that fire divine power was because he wanted to make use of the nature of the 5 elements to refine Su Zimo's divine power golden lotus flowers. Among the 5 elements, fire countered metal. Furthermore, the lotus flowers belonged to the wood element and feared fire as well. Under normal circumstances, the sunset flare should be a perfect counter to the earth gushing golden lotus. However, the birth of the golden lotus had already surpassed the 5 elements and was beyond common sense. It was formed by the intertwining of turtle and snake, the sun and moon, light and darkness, yin and yang. Before the golden lotus was born, it was originally a green lotus. Its shade of green was burned away by the scorching flames of the turtle snake, allowing it to release blinding golden lights. The golden lotus was born from the flames to begin with. Not only did Monk Daming's sunset flare fail to refine the golden lotus flowers that surged out from the ground, it even made the auras of the golden lotus flowers even stronger. Metal was indestructible and eternal. It shared the longevity of heaven and earth and illuminated alongside the sun and moon. The flames burned furiously and the golden lotus flowers that surged out from the ground grew stronger, charging towards Monk Daming. Bang! There were too many golden lotus flowers and Monk Daming could not dodge in time. He was struck by a golden lotus flower and his body shuddered as blood scars appeared on his face. Amazing! Monk Daming spat out a mouthful of blood and praised. His body was strong and condensed and could even take on Dermic treasures head-on. However, it was nearly shattered by the golden lotus flower. It was clear how terrifying that greater divine power was. Of course, given Monk Daming's blood chi, even if he was smashed into pieces by the golden lotus flower, he was not severely injured and could recover in the blink of an eye. However, this exchange caused the situation of the battle to change gradually. The golden lotus flowers were endless and dense. Although the golden light region was vast, there was not much space for Monk Daming to dodge. He had just released a greater divine power and his essence spirit had to ease slightly before he could release a second. However, the golden lotus flowers beneath showed no signs of stopping and surged continuously. Swoosh! Monk Daming suddenly took a step behind. Although that step seemed ordinary, it was mysterious and graceful. That single step landed right in a gap between the golden lotus flowers. Exquisite steps. In midair, the Chess Emperor and Lin Xuanji exclaimed at the same time. Just who is that person? Lin Xuanji frowned. It was no secret that the mystic firmament record was stolen by this person. However, the fact that this person could comprehend Ancestor Ling Long's secret skill in such a short period of time was way too terrifying. The mystic firmament record had a long history. Although there had been many paragons in Enigma Palace over the years, only a few of them could comprehend the exquisite steps. Most of them merely comprehended the mystic firmament steps. In fact, cultivators of Enigma Palace even felt that Ancestor Ling Long had not left behind the complete legacy of the exquisite steps in Enigma Palace. In this generation, only Demonist Ji, who entered the human emperor's palace, obtained the true legacy of ancestor Ling Long and comprehended the exquisite steps. However, the scene before them shocked the two of them. This meant that there was indeed a cultivation technique for the exquisite steps in the mystic firmament record. However, they had not been able to crack the secret within. But now, the exquisite steps was cultivated by an outsider with a mysterious background. When Demonist Ji released her exquisite steps, her figure was graceful like a dragon. As for Monk Daming, he released the exquisite steps with an indescribable grace and ease, as though he was an immortal that was floating among the clouds, strolling leisurely among the golden lotus flowers. Chapter 1682, Arrival of the Emperors. Chapter 1682, Arrival of the Emperors. Swoosh. Su Zimo's figure flashed and he arrived before Monk Daming in the blink of an eye. He flipped his palm to suppress the latter. Even if Monk Daming released the exquisite steps, he had already lost the initiative. For experts like Su Zimo and Monk Daming, any single mistake made by anyone would be captured and taken advantage of by the other party. Bang! Monk Daming punched in reverse and collided with Su Zimo's palm with a dull thud. Their blood chi intertwined and devoured one another without relenting. Su Zimo did not gain any advantage in that head-on clash. However, Monk Daming had no choice but to retreat and dodge. That was because golden lotus flowers were still surging underground continuously. He had to deal with Su Zimo while dodging the golden lotus flowers beneath his feet. However, Su Zimo would not be disturbed as such. He rode on the golden lotus flowers while they would not affect or harm him. Bang! 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 Both parties fought with speed. Su Zimo attacked consecutively and released a flurry of attacks without giving Monk Daming any chance to catch his breath. Their blood chi rose continuously and they reached the tsunami blood realm before long. However, both of them had a tacit understanding and did not choose to release their bloodline phenomenons. This was not a life and death battle. That white-robed man is way too strong. Lin Xuanji said sternly, Brother Su's green lotus true body has grown to grade 8 and can even crush dermic treasures. To think that this person could fight against him for so long. The chess emperor nodded as well. That's right. Although that person is restricted by the earth-gushing golden lotus and is disadvantaged, seemingly suppressed by Desolate Martial, there's no way to determine the victor. Once the divine power of the earth-gushing golden lotus dissipates, that person will regain his freedom and won't be threatened by the golden lotus flowers. The outcome will be even more unpredictable. Lin Xuanji shook his head. No, Brother Su still has some trump cards that he has yet to reveal. If he does, that person will definitely lose. Fu. The chess emperor smiled gently and asked, how do you know that this person doesn't have similar trump cards to deal with them? Lin Xuanji's heart skipped a beat. The chess emperor was right. He knew nothing about this person. All he knew was that this person had shocking talent and was extremely audacious. He could even infiltrate Enigma Palace to steal the books and even set Su Zimo up. It was not surprising if such a monster incarnate had extraordinary methods. Or rather, this person definitely had other trump cards. Lin Xuanji murmured softly, to think that in this generation, there could be someone who could match Brother Su. How scary. On the battlefield. Although Su Zimo had the upper hand, Monk Daming dealt with it calmly. Su Zimo did not use trump cards such as the heaven-slaying sword Qi. That was because he knew that Monk Daming had some powerful trump cards as well. Even if they were released, it would not affect the outcome of this battle. That's incredible. Su Zimo could not help but praise internally. Monk Daming made an error in judgment and released a greater divine power that boosted his earth-gushing golden lotus, allowing him to gain the upper hand. Despite that, Monk Daming was still able to fight him head-on, relying on his powerful combat strength to weave through the gaps of the golden lotus flowers. Monk Daming was indeed the strongest opponent he had encountered. If the two of them were to fight to the death and use all their trump cards, no one would know which of them would survive. Right then, the divine power ranking trembled and released another blinding golden light, forming two golden beams that shone on Su Zimo and Monk Daming. The two beams of light isolated the two of them as well. That is, the divine power ranking is passing down its inheritance. How could that be? The outcome between the two of them has yet to be decided. This scene caused a commotion. Look! Someone pointed to the top of the divine power ranking and a Dao title slowly appeared, Desolate Marshal. Immediately after, still at the top of the divine power ranking and ranked beside Desolate Marshal, there were faint words, another Dao title was about to appear. When Monk Daming saw that, he suddenly said, "My Dao title is Solar Luna." The words that were about to appear on the divine power ranking suddenly turned blurry. Finally, the words Solar Luna appeared beside Desolate Marshal. Desolate Marshal, Solar Luna. Two Dao titles were ranked at the top of the divine power ranking. It's unprecedented to have equivalent ranks in the divine power ranking. What a rare sight. Even in the ancient era, there was no such situation. Could even the divine power ranking not bear to see the two of them continue fighting? That's indeed a possibility. The establishment of the divine power ranking is to make the human race stronger, not to kill one another. No matter which of those two monster incarnates dies, it's a huge loss for the human race. Many patriarchs exclaimed. Solar Luna? Lin Xuanji frowned and pondered for a long time before shaking his head. I've never heard of that name. Even in the ancient books of Enigma Palace, there's no such person. I've never heard of it either. The Chess Emperor shook his head. After a brief pause, he continued, however, that Dao title might not be real. Initially, the divine power ranking was almost about to reveal this person's true Dao title. However, the divine power ranking changed at the last minute when this person suddenly mentioned the Dao title Solar Luna. Just who is that person? Why is he hiding his identity? Lin Xuanji frowned and murmured, Solar Luna, Solar Luna. Among everyone present, Su Zimo was probably the only one who knew that the characters for Solar Luna formed the character for Ming when joined together. However, at that moment, neither Su Zimo nor Monk Daming were in the mood to think too much. The inheritance of the divine power ranking was akin to enlightenment. Every single breath was extremely precious. The two of them held their breaths and closed their eyes, comprehending the inheritance that descended from the divine power ranking carefully. Everyone knew that the top 6 of the divine power ranking would all inherit a supreme divine power from the human emperor. As for the rank 1, the supreme divine power inherited was the strongest. I reckon that it might be the human emperor's killing word art. It might also be the Permitha Bridge. When the Permitha Bridge was released at the 10,000 race meet, even the supreme divine powers of the primordial races could not defend against it and collapsed instantly. Many patriarchs discussed excitedly. Look! A patriarch pointed at Monk Daming and suddenly said, the word kill appeared above that person's head. Seems like the killing word art has been imparted to that person. A golden bridge formed from countless runes has appeared above Desolate Marshal's head. Desolate Marshal obtained the inheritance of the Permitha Bridge. Many patriarchs revealed envious expressions. Right then, an extremely terrifying might descended and the entire world seemed to darken. Black clouds surged over and the air was heavy. Many patriarchs looked up instinctively. 7 terrifying figures stood in the firmaments, emitting Emperor Dao auras and looking down at the world with cold expressions. 7 emperors. Chapter 1683, See you again in the pugilistic world. Chapter 1683, See you again in the pugilistic world. The 7 emperors stood side by side and the person in the middle was Chaos Essence Sect and the D-Clan's U Emperor. On both sides of him stood the Purple Thunder Emperor of Zephyr Thunder Palace, the Frost Emperor of Glass Palace, the Killing Emperor of Sword Sect, the Malevolent Emperor of Malevolent Earth Sect, the North Firmament Emperor of Heavenly Dipper Sect and the Breaking Sea Emperor of Panglai Island. Although no one knew the exact number of emperors of the human race, Enigma Palace had once speculated that there were only around 30 of them, including some reclusive emperors. Even in the ancient battlefield, these emperors rarely appeared. But now, 7 emperors had arrived together. This was a rare sight throughout history. Everyone present were patriarchs who had lived for tens of thousands of years and were sharp about the human heart. The moment they saw Du and the others appear, they knew why and who they were here for. Desolate Marshal is dead. A patriarch smiled. I heard that the previous time round, the Yu Emperor failed to kill Desolate Marshal. To think that he would actually gather 7 emperors this time round. Desolate Marshal truly won't be able to escape. That's right. Another patriarch said, although the divine power ranking passed down a supreme divine power to Desolate Marshal, he will still require a long time to comprehend it. Even if 2 emperors were to attack right now, he would definitely die, let alone 7 emperors. Ha! That white-robed cultivator won't be able to escape death either. A patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace said, this person killed a few patriarchs on the divine power ranking. Our Purple Thunder Emperor will definitely suppress him and make him pay with his blood. The situation is bad. In the crowd, Demonist Ji said sternly, there's still no news of the Mystic Emperor after he entered the Human Emperor's palace, while the Emperors of Diamond Monastery, Snowdrift Valley, and the other super sects are still healing. Nobody can help Zimo right now. Mingzhen said deeply, I believe junior brother Ming Xian must have predicted such a situation. He might be prepared. In midair, the Chess Emperor glanced at Desolate Marshal and Monk Daming, who were still receiving their inheritance, and retracted his gaze. He looked at Du and the others and asked loudly, what's the meaning of this, everyone? Nothing much. Du said indifferently, I want to settle some grudges with Desolate Marshal today. The Chess Emperor said in a deep voice, Du, Desolate Marshal did a great deed at the 10,000 race meet and he's the future hope of the human race. The primordial races are the most wary of him. If the primordial races reappear after you kill Desolate Marshal, who can suppress them? Right now, Tianhuang Mainland is a place where the 10,000 races coexist. The primordial races have already agreed to it and there's no threat at all. Du said, furthermore, the primordial races were shocked by the human emperor and their top emperors are either dead or injured. They were scared out of their wits and are no longer a threat to the human race. Right, since we mentioned the human emperor. The Chess Emperor hollered, Desolate Marshal obtained the title of the Eternal Human Emperor and is the successor that was selected by the Eternal Human Emperor personally. He is the current human emperor. If you want to kill him, that's equivalent to disrespecting the human emperor. Are you trying to commit treason? Ha 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 ha. Du burst into laughter. Chess Emperor, don't use the Eternal Human Emperor to suppress me. Desolate Marshal is merely a patriarch right now and has yet to become an emperor. How can he be considered as the human emperor? The position of the human emperor belongs to the capable. Desolate Marshal is merely a patriarch. Even if he's invincible among his peers, can he defeat me? What rights does he have to become the human emperor? Suddenly, Lin Xuanji said, Du, you have to think carefully. Desolate Marshal has another true body that's a taboo dragon phoenix. If you dare to kill Desolate Marshal, the taboo dragon phoenix will definitely lead the dragon race to flatten Chaos Essence sect and kill your D clan. You'll be a sinner of Chaos Essence sect and the D clan. Sure thing. Du was fearless when he heard that. Instead, he nodded and laughed. Get Desolate Marshal's Dragon Phoenix true body to kill. Kill the entire D clan and all the cultivators of Chaos Essence sect. That will be a great opportunity for the world to witness how Desolate Marshal slaughters human cultivators with the bloodline of a primordial race taboo. Lin Xuanji frowned. This matter was indeed troublesome to deal with. Even if Du killed Desolate Marshal, it would be difficult for the Dragon Phoenix true body to attack. Firstly, the Dragon Phoenix true body had a taboo bloodline and was not human. His identity was sensitive and he would definitely be scolded and criticized if he massacred human cultivators. Secondly, this was Du's doing and had nothing to do with anyone else. Given Desolate Marshal's character, he would definitely not implicate Chaos Essence Sect and the D clan just because of DU. On the Divine Power ranking, the light on Su Zimo and Monk Daming's bodies were getting fainter. This meant that the inheritance was about to end. Once the inheritance was over, the golden light beneath the rank 1 of the Divine Power ranking would dissipate as well. At that time, Su Zimo and Monk Daming would be completely exposed to the 7 emperors. Although the Chess Emperor was anxious, he had no good solution. He frowned and looked at the emperors beside Du, saying in a deep voice, "Purple Thunder, 7 kills. You guys don't have any deep feud with Desolate Marshal, right? Desolate Marshal killed my titular disciple. Doesn't that count?" The Killing Emperor asked instead. The Chess Emperor sneered internally. How is it appropriate for emperors like ourselves to appear and take revenge personally for the deaths of our sect's titular disciples? The Purple Thunder Emperor pointed to Monk Daming beside Su Zimo. The 3 of us are here to kill that person. That person hid like a coward and hunted patriarchs of our sects on the Divine Power ranking. Let's see who he is. The Frost Emperor of Glass Palace said coldly. Chess Emperor, you had better make way and scram to the side to study your chess manuals quietly. The Malevolent Emperor retrieved a spear made from an unknown beast bone from his storage bag. It emitted a torrential aura as he pointed at the Chess Emperor and said coldly, "If you stand in our way, we'll kill you as well." The Chess Emperor's expression turned cold when he heard that. Even though he was obsessed with chess and rarely fought with others, he was still an emperor and was incomparably noble. There was no way he would allow others to humiliate and provoke him like this. "Alright, let's see how you're going to kill me." Right then, the Divine Power ranking vibrated. The 2 beams of light on Su Zimo and Monk Daming had already dissipated and the golden light surrounding the area had faded as well. Both of them opened their eyes at the same time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The gazes of Du and the other emperors descended instantly and landed on the 2 of them, releasing a terrifying pressure. Even against the pressure of the 7 emperors, Su Zimo and Monk Daming's expressions did not change. In fact, the 2 of them did not even look up at the 7 emperors above them. The 2 of them merely exchanged glances with fighting spirit in their eyes. The battle between the 2 of them earlier on was not over yet. "Brother Su, I'm afraid we won't be able to continue with our fight." Monk Daming suddenly smiled. "However, we can do it another way." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he vaguely guessed something. "There are 7 emperors here. I heard that 3 of them are here for me." Monk Daming's eyes lit up. "Next, we'll see which of us can survive against the pursuit of these emperors." "All right." Su Zimo nodded and replied with a fake smile, "However, you'll definitely lose." Monk Daming smiled gently. "Don't brag too soon. I hope that you'll still be alive the next time I see you. See you again in the pugilistic world." With that said, Monk Daming's blood chi surged and he burst forth with the greater divine power that could shrink the ground into inches, sprinting into the distance. Chapter 1684, Chess Destiny. Chapter 1684, Chess Destiny. Although the fact that Monk Daming fled after receiving the inheritance did not look honorable, it was the wisest choice. Even he could not fight against emperors head-on and could only avoid them temporarily. "Junior, there's nowhere for you to run." The Purple Thunder Emperor was the first to react and hollered. Electric arcs burst forth from his body as he chased after Monk Daming. The Frost Emperor transformed into a rainbow-colored streak of light and crossed half the void, traveling at least 5,000 kilometers. The Killing Emperor rode on his flying sword and followed closely behind. In the blink of an eye, 3 emperors chased after Monk Daming and disappeared from everyone's sights. When he saw that, Su Zimo smiled gently with a sense of warmth in his heart. This outcome was probably part of Monk Daming's plan. Part of the reason why he hunted the Patriarchs of the Divine Power ranking was because those Patriarchs cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. On the other hand, it was also to help Su Zimo. If Su Zimo could guess that an emperor would descend to kill him in the divine power ranking this time round, Monk Daming could naturally guess as well. That was the reason why he decided to hunt the Patriarchs of the divine power ranking at this time. That way, it was equivalent to 3 emperors lured away by Monk Daming. The pressure on Su Zimo was significantly reduced as well. Of course, Monk Daming would definitely not openly admit to it. Desolate Marshal, why aren't you running? Diyu looked down at Su Zimo with a mocking expression, as though he was looking at a dying man. He smiled and asked, why? You're already prepared to surrender? He's quite a smart person. He knows that he can't run. The North Firmament Emperor of Heavenly Dipper sect mocked as well. The Breaking Sea Emperor said, should we discuss? Perhaps, if Desolate Marshal is willing to hand over the human emperor's seal and beg for mercy, we can consider giving him a chance. The remaining 4 emperors mocked them with relaxed expressions. Su Zimo smiled as well. Of course, the reason why I'm not running is because there's no need to. When he saw how composed Su Zimo was, Diyu's expression darkened as he harumphed coldly. Desolate Marshal, even if you die 10 times, it's not enough to resolve the feud between you and Chaos Essence sect as well as the D clan. I'm prepared to restrain your essence spirit. Let's see what secrets you have to be able to cultivate to this point. Before his sentence was finished, Diyu extended his palm and crushed down on Su Zimo like a millstone. Great Chaos Essence Palm. Although it was not a divine power, when released by an emperor, the power of the Great Chaos Essence Palm was incomparably terrifying. It could even crush greater divine powers with ease. Diyu, how dare you? The Chess Emperor had a furious expression and attacked right away. He slapped his back and flung the stone slab on his back. There were vertical lines drawn on the stone slab that intertwined and split the entire stone slab into tiny blocks. The stone slab seemed to possess a demonic power. Many Mahayana patriarchs looked at the stone slab and their gazes and minds seemed to be absorbed by it, spinning continuously. The stone slab was a chessboard. Swoosh! Suddenly, the sound of sharp blades tearing through the air echoed as a sinister wind howled. A slender black light struck the chessboard heavily and sparks flew. The sound of metal clashing was extremely ear-piercing. Many patriarchs shuddered and woke up. The malevolent emperor at the side had thrown out the bone spear in his hands. He said coldly, Chess Emperor, I'm your opponent. At the same time, the North Firmament Emperor and the Breaking Sea Emperor attacked at the same time. The North Firmament Emperor punched toward Su Zimo through the void and a gigantic star appeared in the firmaments, emitting an endless might as though it wanted to crush Su Zimo into sludge. The Breaking Sea Emperor waved his sleeves and the sound of tsunami surged. A bottomless ocean appeared on the battlefield with a majestic might. It was as though the Breaking Sea Emperor had moved the entire East Sea here. The Chess Emperor channeled his essence spirit wildly and slapped his storage bag, retrieving black and white chess pieces that scattered onto the chessboard. Chess Destiny. He hollered and released a supreme divine power. Clang! 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 The black and white chess pieces landed on the chessboard and it spun slowly, emitting a mysterious power as though it was sucking all living beings into it as chess pieces. Those black and white chess pieces meant that all living beings in the world could not escape from this chessboard. When that supreme divine power was released, the power of Diyu, the Breaking Sea Emperor and the North Firmament Emperor was absorbed by the spinning chessboard. Humph. Finger Yellow Springs. The malevolent emperor channeled his essence spirit hurriedly and pointed forward as well. Suddenly, a turbid yellow river appeared beneath his finger and surged towards the chessboard in midair. The water of the yellow springs possessed an extremely terrifying power and endless corpses floated within. They were eternal and were the most filthy. The chessboard was soaked in the yellow springs and its glow dimmed instantly. The black and white pieces on the chessboard began to fall off as well. Humph. Diyu sneered, Chess Emperor, you overestimate yourself. You want to fight against us 4 emperors just because you've comprehended a supreme divine power? You're courting death. Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Diyu waved his sleeves and the void in midair suddenly collapsed, revealing a gigantic and deep hole that spun continuously with a powerful suction force. The Grotto-heaven was pitch black and emitted a cold aura. The Chess Emperor's face was pale. No matter how he channeled his blood chi, he could not control his body and began to float towards Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Before he was pulled into Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven, he could already sense the destructive aura contained within. It was as though it wanted to tear and shatter everything. The Chess Emperor knew very well how powerful that supreme divine power was. Once he fell into it, it would be useless even with blood rebirth. He would descend upon that endless abyss and be minced to death. He struggled with all his might but could not stop himself. The chessboard of the Chess Emperor was restricted by the water of Yellow Springs and could not be controlled yet. He could only take out a few more dermic treasures from his storage bag to defend against the power of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. However, the moment those dermic treasures were taken out, they were absorbed by Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven and turned into dust. Even dermic treasures could not withstand the power of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Chess Emperor, there's no need for you to struggle. The Breaking Sea Emperor smiled gently. Let me send you off on your final journey. Weak water. The Breaking Sea Emperor extended his palm. An extremely rich divine power was released from his palm, forming a tiny stream that was only as thick as an arm. However, after the stream appeared, it was as though the entire world had fallen into it. Weak water was the legendary immortal water of the upper world that could not be breached, even a goose's feather could not float on it. In weak water, even if one had extraordinary methods, they would fall into it. Some divine powers and dermic arts would even be rendered completely useless. Although the stream that was as thick as an arm did not have much momentum, the release of that supreme divine power drowned the Chess Emperor's final hope. The Chess Emperor was washed by the weak water and fell towards the pitch-black Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven with a dim gaze and an expression of despair. Lin Xuanji and the others could only watch helplessly. This was a battle between emperors. Those were supreme divine powers and his strength was as insignificant as an ant in the face of them. Right then, Lin Xuanji's gaze shifted to Su Zimo and gradually froze. Chapter 1685, Killing Emperors. Chapter 1685, Killing Emperors. Su Zimo did not attack when the battle broke out in midair. He had comprehended less than 10 greater divine powers. Even if he attacked, he could not affect the entire situation. Su Zimo merely took out something from his robes. It was a long scroll with words written on it. That is. When Lin Xuanji saw that, his gaze froze as he murmured, "The human emperor's dermic edict." Su Zimo held the long scroll with both hands and spread it slowly above his head. There was a line of scarlet words written on that snow-white scroll. Everything was written with blood. The human race is declining and emperors are useless. I heard that Desolate marshal rose in Tianhuang mainland and established the martial Dao to bring blessings to the masses. I, the human emperor, have decided to pass down my title to Desolate marshal. Once Desolate marshal is conferred the title of emperor, he will become the human emperor and be respected by the world. Now that those scarlet words reappeared, the voice of the eternal human emperor seemed to echo in the void with a terrifying might. An extremely terrifying power was released from the long scroll, causing Diyu and the others to shudder. The human emperor's dermic edict. A Mahayana patriarch recognized the origin of the long scroll and exclaimed. Many Mahayana patriarchs stared at the scroll and the words on it. There were many blood-red words of the same character, kill. Ah! Suddenly, a tragic cry sounded from midair. The North Firmament Emperor of Heavenly Dipper sect convulsed and was suddenly sliced into pieces, turning into blood clots. His essence spirit had just escaped when it shuddered and was severed by a chilling killing intent, dying on the spot. Right in front of everyone, the North Firmament Emperor died. Pust. Many patriarchs gasped and their expressions changed. It was only now that they realized that the killed words that burst forth from the human emperor's dermic edict were not their imagination. It had truly happened. The supreme divine power of the human emperor, the killing word art, was hidden within the human emperor's Dharmic edict. It was only at that moment that many Mahayana patriarchs understood why Desolate Marshal did not escape. So, the human emperor had left such a powerful trump card for Desolate Marshal with his Dharmic edict. One after another, bloodied, kill words appeared in midair. They were condensed and did not dissipate, filled with a chilling killing intent. Heaven and earth trembled. The void seemed to have been sliced into pieces by the kill words. The breaking sea emperor's weak water sliced into pieces by a killing word art. His divine powers dissipated and a terrifying killing intent descended on him instantly. His figure swayed and his eyes dimmed instantly as he fell from midair. His essence spirit was completely destroyed in his consciousness. He was killed by a single killing intent from the killing word art. Although the yellow springs water of the malevolent emperor was incomparably filthy, it was sliced into nothingness by the killing word art. Du's chaos essence Grotto-heaven was sliced into pieces by a bloodied, killed word and dissipated on the spot. The chess emperor seized the opportunity to escape as well. Weak water, finger yellow springs and chaos essence Grotto-heaven, all of them were destroyed by the eternal human emperor's killing word art. Even the heavenly god emperor who was domineering and invincible back then and acknowledged himself to be comparable to the eternal human emperor was killed on the spot by a single killing word art. Let alone the emperors before them. This supreme divine power of the killing word art was not released personally by the eternal human emperor. However, every single word on the human emperor's Dharmic edict was written using the blood of the heavenly god emperor and the others in the past and possessed immense might. The reason why the eternal human emperor passed the human emperor's seal to Su Zimo was to train the latter. However, the eternal human emperor would definitely not let anyone bully Su Zimo casually. Others merely thought that it was an ordinary Dharmic edict. However, only Su Zimo knew that this was the final trump card given to him by the eternal human emperor. Actually, Su Zimo could not activate the killing word art on the human emperor's Dharmic edict. The killing word art would only appear when it was triggered by a supreme divine power. Back then, when Du hunted down Su Zimo a few hundred years ago, he wanted to release the human emperor's Dharmic edict. However, once this trump card was exposed, outsiders would be prepared and the threat of it would be greatly reduced. Right now, Du and the others wanted to take advantage of the divine power ranking to kill Desolate Marshal. It was the same for Su Zimo. He had hidden the human emperor's Dharmic edict for so long just for today. The human emperor's Dharmic edict was completely released and in the blink of an eye, the two emperors, the North Firmament Emperor and the Breaking Sea Emperor, died, leaving only the Malevolent Emperor and Du. However, the kill words on the human emperor's Dharmic edict had yet to dissipate and was charging towards the two of them. The Malevolent Emperor retracted his bone spear hurriedly and thrust it towards a kill word in front of him. At the same time, he summoned a gigantic bell from his storage bag and it hovered above his head. Crack. When the bone spear collided with the kill word, the sound of cracking could be heard. Instantly, the bone spear shattered on the spot and fell from midair. However, the killing word art did not stop and struck the gigantic bell. Clang. There was a loud bang. The bell sounded from afar and shattered on the spot. After destroying two Dharmic treasures in succession, the killing word art had already dissipated. The Malevolent Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale as he fled into the distance. Although he lost two Dharmic treasures, one of which was his destiny Dharmic treasure, he managed to defend against that fatal attack and escape. Right then, Su Zimo sneered. Suddenly, he threw the human emperor's Dharmic edict in his hands and it tore through the air. The human emperor's Dharmic edict descended on the head of the Malevolent Emperor. The moment the Malevolent Emperor escaped, his vision darkened before he could catch his breath. A long scroll filled with blood words enveloped him. The human emperor's Dharmic edict was filled with the blood of the top emperors of the primordial races and was filled with killing intent that tore everything apart. The Malevolent Emperor was enveloped by the human emperor's Dharmic edict and his essence spirit was minced into a blood mist before it could escape. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot. Before his death, the last thought of the malevolent emperor was regret. It was not regret for coming here, but regret for not following the Purple Thunder Emperor and the others to hunt down the white-robed man. In the blink of an eye, Du was the only one left among the four emperors. When Du's Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven was shattered by the killing word art, he realized that something was amiss and turned to flee right away. Trying to escape. Su Zimo glared at Du's back view and controlled the human emperor's dermic edict once more to envelop him as well. Whoosh! The human emperor's dermic edict tore through the air and descended on Du's head instantly. Countless scarlet words seemed to have jumped out of the dermic edict and wanted to tear Du apart. Du had a grim expression. He witnessed the malevolent emperor being sucked in by the human emperor's dermic edict without a corpse left. He knew very well that if he were to fall into it, he would definitely die here as well. Suddenly, a strange blood glint flashed through Du's eyes. Dermic blood escape. Du released the blood escape technique from the Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra and burned almost half of his bloodline. His speed increased exponentially and he transformed into a blood beam, escaping from the envelopment of the human emperor's dermic edict. Chapter 1686, Sabotaging Emperors. Chapter 1686, Sabotaging Emperors. The Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra again. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he narrowed his eyes. Up till now, he knew that there were close to 10 people who cultivated this fiend technique. He was already shocked that Patriarchs on the Divine Power ranking cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra. To think that even an emperor cultivated this fiend technique. Su Zimo had no desire to chase after Du after the latter released dermic blood escape. He knew the blood escape technique the best. Unless he was an emperor, there was no way he could catch up to Du. At the same time, Su Zimo understood something. There was a high chance that Du had cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend's Sutra 10,000 years ago. Back when he descended to the North region and ambushed the red-headed ghost, he even wanted to kill the latter. It was not because he wanted to save the cultivators of Daming and Fahua monasteries. Du merely wanted to lure the dragon race out and trigger an even more tragic battle. Rivers of blood in the entire North region were what he wanted to see. Unfortunately, the red-headed ghost was severely injured and was on the brink of death. However, the Dharma Emperor sacrificed his remaining lifespan and with a compassionate heart, saved the red-headed ghost. That was also the reason why the dragon race did not appear and massacre the North region. Su Zimo beckoned and retracted the human emperor's dermic edict. After this battle, the power of the eternal human emperor on the dermic edict had been exhausted. Even if Su Zimo summoned the human emperor's dermic edict again, it would no longer be a threat. However, there was still a legacy of a supreme divine power left on the dermic edict. The killing word art. This was the final gift left behind for Su Zimo by the human emperor. The human emperor's seal possessed the legacy of a supreme divine power, 3 heads 6 arms. Earlier on, when he was at the top of the divine power ranking, Su Zimo even inherited the legacy of the Prometha Bridge. Coupled with the inheritance of the killing word art in the human emperor's dermic edict. Of the 6 supreme divine powers comprehended by the eternal human emperor in the past, 3 of the strongest ones were passed down to Su Zimo. Once this was over, Su Zimo would enter seclusion once more and attempt to become an emperor. Right then, a figure sped over from not far away. Although he exuded the might of an emperor, he looked a little wretched. It was the Purple Thunder Emperor who had chased after Monk Daming earlier on. When the Purple Thunder Emperor returned and saw that Su Zimo was still standing there unscathed, his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Desolate Marshal, you're not dead yet?" The Purple Thunder Emperor hollered with a cold expression and was about to attack. Purple Thunder Emperor, wait! A Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace rushed forward hurriedly and blocked in front of the Purple Thunder Emperor. With a horrified expression, he shouted, "Run, run!" The 3 emperors, Breaking Sea Emperor, North Firmament Emperor and Malevolent Emperor, had been killed by Desolate Marshal. Ah! The Purple Thunder Emperor was shocked. He swept his gaze and caught sight of the remains on the battlefield. The corpse of the Breaking Sea Emperor was lying not far away and was not cold yet. Although the corpse of the North Firmament Emperor was already torn apart, his identity could still be vaguely recognized from his torn clothes. Although the malevolent emperor was minced into a blood mist by the human emperor's dermic edict, the aura of the yellow springs that he had comprehended condensed in midair. At the side, Su Zimo put away the storage bag of the malevolent emperor with a calm expression and did not even look up at him. Du was long gone. Pust. The Purple Thunder Emperor's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, the Purple Thunder Emperor did not dare to linger and fled into the distance in silence, afraid that he would encounter a calamity. Purple Thunder Emperor, wait for me. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace chased after him hurriedly as well. The Purple Thunder Emperor ran until he was 1,000,000 kilometers away and confirmed that there was no danger before stopping with a bewildered expression. A moment later, the Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace from earlier on caught up. What's going on? The Purple Thunder Emperor had run too hurriedly earlier on and did not have time to ask. At that moment, he asked hastily, is the Mystic Emperor back? No, it was Desolate Marshal. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace panted slightly. Impossible. The Purple Thunder Emperor said resolutely, Desolate Marshal is only at the late-stage Mahayana realm. How can he kill 3 emperors? The human emperor's dermic edict in Desolate Marshal's hands. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace described everything that happened completely. Although the Purple Thunder Emperor was not present, he still felt a sense of trepidation and broke out in cold sweat when he heard that. The Purple Thunder Emperor had yet to realize that the killing word art on the human emperor's dermic edict had already dissipated and posed no threat to him. Purple Thunder Emperor, where are the Frost and Killing Emperors? The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace asked, didn't the 3 of you chase after that person together? Just what was the background of that person? At the mention of that, the Purple Thunder Emperor's expression darkened as he grit his teeth. Don't mention this matter any longer. We didn't manage to catch up to that person. Ah. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace was shocked and said instinctively, 3 emperors failed to catch up to a late-stage Mahayana Patriarch? More than that. The Purple Thunder Emperor clenched his fists and ground his teeth so hard that they cracked. He said hatefully, that person even managed to sabotage and kill the Frost Emperor. The Killing Emperor also escaped with severe injuries. I was the only one who managed to escape in time thanks to my movement technique. How could that be? The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace was dumbfounded. The Purple Thunder Emperor suppressed the rage in his heart for a moment before saying, this person specializes in concealment and illusion techniques. Coupled with his extremely fast movement technique, he will disappear from our senses the moment we're not careful. We chased all the way and arrived at some ruins. That person was a little tired and seemed to be exhausted. The 3 of us went forward and released our supreme divine powers, prepared to kill that person. Unexpectedly. At that point, a look of fear flashed through the Purple Thunder Emperor's eyes. To think that the space around the ruins would be unstable. When we released our supreme divine powers, we attracted a divine power storm. Ah! The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace exclaimed. He could guess what happened next without the Purple Thunder Emperor elaborating. The Frost Emperor was buried in the divine power storm and the Killing Emperor fled with severe injuries. Only the Purple Thunder Emperor managed to escape, albeit in a sorry state. You don't have to be angry. At the very least, that person died inside as well. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace consoled. Die, my ass. When he heard that, the Purple Thunder Emperor was so angry that he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. The thing that lured us over was just a clone of that person. We lost him somewhere in between. The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace opened his mouth with a numb expression. The fact that Desolate Marshal summoned the human emperor's dermic edict and killed 3 emperors earlier on was already a huge blow to him. However, he could still accept it. After all, that was something left behind by the eternal human emperor. However, that white-robed cultivator made use of a clone to toy with 3 emperors. In the end, he even sabotaged and killed an emperor while severely injuring another. Just who was that person? The Patriarch of Zephyr Thunder Palace could not help but recall the unfinished battle that this person had agreed on with Desolate Marshal before he left. Perhaps, the outcome of that battle might not have been decided yet. Chapter 1687, Emperor Desolate Marshal. Chapter 1687, Emperor Desolate Marshal. Beneath the divine power ranking, Su Zimo bowed slightly to the Chess Emperor and bid farewell to Lin Xuanji, Demoness Ji, and the others before leaving. Many patriarchs looked at Su Zimo's back view with emotional expressions. Everyone knew in their hearts that the moment Desolate Marshal reappeared, he would definitely become an emperor. There would be no one in the ancient battlefield who could pose a threat to him. The era of Desolate Marshal in Tianhuang mainland had arrived. Although Su Zimo had left, many Mahayana patriarchs were still gathered beneath the divine power ranking, and the fight for the divine power ranking was not over yet. Apart from the rank 1 spot, there would be an intense battle for the other spots. However, with the previous battle, the fights for the other spots on the divine power ranking became a little boring. Peace returned to the ancient battlefield. Su Zimo found a secret place and set up many formations and restrictions, preparing to comprehend divine powers. Right now, he was only at the late-stage Mahayana realm. Even with the human emperor's inheritance, it was impossible for him to comprehend supreme divine powers directly. As the rank 1 of the divine power ranking, apart from inheriting a supreme divine power, he also inherited 36 greater divine powers. Su Zimo was prepared to comprehend all the greater divine powers and reach the perfected Mahayana realm first. The comprehension of divine powers was gradual and could not be done overnight. For example, if one wanted to comprehend the supreme divine power, everlasting vitality, they would first have to comprehend the greater divine power, greater healing technique. One could only comprehend everlasting vitality when their comprehension of the great healing technique was at its limits. Many supreme divine powers were condensed from many lesser and greater divine powers. Unless one comprehended those lesser and greater divine powers, it was impossible for them to comprehend the supreme divine powers directly. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, almost 1,000 years had passed since the 10,000 race meet. For the past 1,000 years, the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland coexisted. Although the territory that belonged to the human race had shrunk significantly, due to the legacy of the martial Dao, the number of human cultivators increased and many sects and factions rose. All living beings in the world could cultivate. The vow that Su Zimo made in front of his older brother, Su Hong, in the ruins of Yan country had been fulfilled. If this continued, the human race would welcome an incomparably glorious cultivation era in less than 10,000 years. The fortune of the human race had already begun to reverse. Although there were occasional fights between the 10,000 races in Tianhuang mainland, they were not major events and were all under control. In a secluded secret chamber in the ancient battlefield, the light was dim without much illumination. Suddenly, a bedazzling divine light suddenly shone in the secret chamber. It was a person's eyes. Su Zimo opened his eyes slowly and the divine power in his body surged, almost reaching a critical point. For the past few hundred years, he had already comprehended all 36 greater divine powers on the divine power ranking. Not only that, he even obtained some cultivation techniques for divine powers from the storage bags of the Malevolent Emperor, North Firmament Emperor and the others. Right now, he had already comprehended more than 50 greater divine powers. He had already broken through to the perfected Mahayana realm 300 years ago. Later on, he was in no hurry to comprehend supreme divine powers. Instead, he continued to lay a good foundation and comprehend as many greater divine powers as possible. It was only today that Su Zimo sensed an opportunity. He had many inheritances of supreme divine powers. However, be it the Permitha Bridge or the Killing Word Art, they came from external sources. There was only a supreme divine power that was nurtured in the creation Green Lotus. Everlasting vitality. To be precise, Su Zimo did not even have to comprehend that supreme divine power. As his green lotus true body grew, comprehending that supreme divine power came naturally. That was because he was already one with the creation green lotus. Today, Su Zimo was prepared to become an emperor. Su Zimo closed his eyes once more and various comprehensions of everlasting vitality flowed through his mind. If anyone was beside him, they would be shocked to discover that Su Zimo had already vanished and in his place was a jade green lotus. The lotus stem was upright and the lotus leaves were huge and crystalline. The veins on them were clear like bloodlines. There was a pink flower bud on the lotus stem. The green lotus swayed slightly and emitted a green glow, illuminating the entire secret chamber like daylight. The entire void was like a lake with ripples. An unknown period of time passed. Suddenly, the green lotus trembled slightly. Although it was incredibly small, it shone with a green glow and released an extremely vast power. The pink flower bud on the lotus stem blossomed. The petals opened up one after another and the entire process was incomparably breathtaking. There were a full 8 circles of 72 lotus petals. The moment the lotus blossomed, a tremendous amount of life force spread in all directions. A Dao being sat in the middle of the lotus. The person had delicate features and black hair that draped over his shoulders. He had a smile on his face and his skin was as tender as a newborn baby with a faint glow. In fact, that person exuded a faint fragrance. The fragrance was very natural and relaxed. Boom! Boom! A boundless power surged into Su Zimo's head and baptized his body, bloodline and even the black-haired essence spirit. Su Zimo's aura rose rapidly. The power of a supreme divine power surged into his body and he underwent a complete transformation. At the same time, many patriarchs and emperors broke out of seclusion in the ancient battlefield and looked over. This aura. Someone became an emperor? A few patriarchs gathered with bewildered expressions. Look, over there. Someone pointed into the distance. Initially, there was a desert in the distance. However, right then, countless vegetation grew wildly in the desert. In the blink of an eye, the desert turned into an oasis. Everlasting vitality. A patriarch said sternly, only the supreme divine power, everlasting vitality, could possess such immense power. This was not the only place, such a shocking scene was happening everywhere in the ancient battlefield. In the endless forest, the branches of countless ancient trees extended and some trees that were on the brink of death were revived. Demoness Ji's face was pale as she opened her eyes. A few days ago, she was assassinated by an emperor of Hidden Death sect and was severely injured. She used the exquisite steps to barely survive and was recuperating in seclusion. At that moment, a tremendous amount of life force surged into her body. Her injuries were healing at a visible speed. Even her essence spirit's injuries were nourished by a green aura and it was only a matter of time before they recovered. Demoness Ji could not help but laugh and mutter, "Zimo, is that you? You have to be careful. After all these years, Du has comprehended another supreme divine power. He has already comprehended 3 supreme divine powers and he's comparable to the Mystic Emperor. Right now, he's searching frantically for you. He's not the only one. I heard that he even invited an emperor of Hidden Death sect." Chapter 1688, Buddha Dragon Elephant. Chapter 1688, Buddha Dragon Elephant. In the ancient, the supreme divine power of everlasting vitality descended and all living beings grew. Isn't this commotion way too great? A patriarch was secretly speechless. I've also heard of people who became an emperor by comprehending everlasting vitality. However, there has never been such a great impact. Another Mahayana patriarch said, "Desolate Marshal is the creation green lotus after all and is a god of the flora race. It's only logical that he would have such a phenomenon." Ha! Right then, a patriarch at the side smiled. Although Desolate Marshal is now an emperor after comprehending everlasting vitality, he's not that powerful. Everlasting vitality is only a healing supreme divine power at the end of the day. What do you know? A patriarch at the side sneered. Although everlasting vitality is a healing divine power, possessing this supreme divine power is almost equivalent to possessing an undying body. Everlasting vitality does not only heal the injuries in one's body. Once circulated, that divine power can recover expended blood, chi and essence spirit in a short period of time. Ah! The patriarchs at the side were shocked. This meant that only an extremely terrifying power was enough to kill Desolate Marshal. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Desolate Marshal to die with everlasting vitality. Boom! Boom! Right then, another vibration sounded from a corner in the west. An even more domineering power burst forth from the west and swept through the massive ancient battlefield, attracting the gazes of countless experts. Roar! One after another, divine dragons appeared in the skies of the west and danced in midair. They reared their heads and howled into the skies, letting out a series of dragon roars that shook the world. What's going on? Why would a dragon appear in the ancient battlefield? This should be a divine dragon conjured by some supreme divine power. Could someone else have become an emperor? Moo! Right then, under the high-pitched dragon roar of the west, another deep and powerful roar burst forth that was not weaker than the dragon roar. Under the gazes of many patriarchs, many divine elephants appeared in the western firmaments. They swayed their massive bodies and walked in the air, flinging their trunks and crying into the skies. Divine dragons and elephants had appeared. The firmaments in the west trembled slightly against the might of the many divine dragons and elephants. What supreme divine power is that to be able to conjure such powerful living beings? Many patriarchs were moved. Suddenly. Ma. Ni. Pa. Me. Hum. In the west, under the dragon and elephant roars, another sacred Sanskrit sound echoed endlessly. Although it was thousands of kilometers away, many patriarchs heard it clearly. The Sanskrit seemed to echo in everyone's ears. Many patriarchs calmed down gradually when they heard the Sanskrit. However, every single patriarch's eyes were filled with shock. Even at such a distance, that supreme divine power could affect them. Immediately after, many patriarchs witnessed an incomparably shocking scene. In the western firmaments, tall figures appeared one after another surrounded by divine dragons and elephants. Wearing monk robes, their heads emitted mysterious halos as they sat on lotus platforms that floated. Buddhas had descended. Those Sanskrit words were chanted by the ancient Buddhas. Even the emperors in the ancient battlefield were shocked, let alone them. What is that supreme divine power? I've never seen it up till this point of my cultivation. I don't think it has ever appeared in the ancient battlefield before. Which patriarch of the Buddhist monasteries has become an emperor? There doesn't seem to be any patriarch of this caliber in this generation's Buddhist monasteries. In another corner of the ancient battlefield, the chess emperor and Lin Xuanji faced one another and looked to the west as well. All these years, the chess emperor had always captured Lin Xuanji and forced the latter to play chess with him. Lin Xuanji was miserable, but there was nothing he could do. However, at that moment, both of them were attracted by the scene. Senior chess emperor, have you ever seen such a divine power scene? Lin Xuanji could not help but ask. Never. The chess emperor shook his head. That person's attainments in Buddhism have already reached the peak. Lin Xuanji pondered for a moment and his heart skipped a beat. I've read a saying in the ancient Buddha emperor's records in our sect. The Buddha emperor said that there's a supreme divine power in the Buddhist monasteries that contains the greater mastery of the profoundness of Buddhism. It's the strongest divine power of the Buddhist monasteries and is called the Buddha Dragon Elephant. Buddha Dragon Elephant? The chess emperor nodded. There's no mistake about that. It should be this divine power. To think that someone would be able to cultivate Buddha Dragon Elephant in this generation. The chess emperor lamented again, even with the ancient Buddha emperor's attainments in Buddhism, he did not manage to cultivate this supreme divine power. If the emperor who comprehended everlasting vitality was Desolate Marshal, who could this person be? The chess emperor asked again. It's him. Suddenly, a figure flashed through Lin Xuanji's mind and he blurted. With a look of realization, the chess emperor said, "You mean to say, the white-robed man who was rank 1 of the divine power ranking, Solar Luna? It must be him." Lin Xuanji said, "To be able to become an emperor in such a short period of time that's comparable to Brother Su, apart from that person, there's no one else." But he's not a monk. The chess emperor shook his head. Perhaps he was a monk in the past? Lin Xuanji hesitated as well. After all, his guess earlier on was merely his intuition without any basis. However, you've seen all the paragons of the Buddhist monasteries in this generation. There's no such person. The chess emperor said, even if we look back in time, for the past 100,000 years, there's probably no other Buddhist disciple with such accomplishments. Lin Xuanji nodded and said casually, "That's right. If that monk from 40,000 years ago hadn't died, he might have been able to achieve it." After saying that, Lin Xuanji was suddenly stunned. Solar Luna. Ming. Daming. A crazy thought flashed through Lin Xuanji's mind. Could it be him? Lin Xuanji looked at the chess emperor and said sternly, "Monk Daming from 40,000 years ago. That's impossible." The chess emperor shook his head. That person has already died for 40,000 years. Something's not right. Lin Xuanji said, "Monk Daming fought against Dao Lord Blood Fiend and both of them went missing. That's why everyone thought that he was dead. However, perhaps he's not dead yet. If he's not dead, where has he been for the past 40,000 years?" The chess emperor asked again. It doesn't make sense for him to appear after 40,000 years of silence. The chess emperor still could not believe it. Indeed, there's no way to explain that. Lin Xuanji said, "However, I suspect that the white-robed man is Monk Daming. At the 10,000 race meet, someone once controlled the human emperor's mirror and conjured the phantom of the human emperor to help the human race. The human emperor's mirror was the treasure passed down to Monk Daming back then." The chess emperor frowned. But if he's Monk Daming, why did he hide his identity and cover his face with his long hair? I have no idea as well. Lin Xuanji shook his head. However, I believe that the mystery is about to be unraveled. Chapter 1689, Massive Battle. Chapter 1689, Massive Battle. All these years, Diyu had not given up on searching for Su Zimo. After Diyu escaped and calmed down, it was easy for him to understand that the killing word art on the human emperor's dermic edict had definitely dissipated and posed no threat to him. Diyu was not crazy. On the contrary, Diyu knew in his heart that this was his only chance. If he could not kill Desolate Marshal before the latter became an emperor, he would die the day Desolate Marshal reappeared as an emperor. He knew that Desolate Marshal would definitely not let him off. In order to find Desolate Marshal, he even invited the hidden emperor out. Above an oasis, Diyu stood in midair and looked in Su Zimo's direction with a dark expression. Desolate Marshal is an emperor. There's no chance left. Diyu, stop. Right then, a voice sounded from the void beside him, but there was no figure. There was not a single person on the oasis, but two. However, the other person's tracks were completely fused with the world without any flaws. Hidden Death Sect, Hidden Emperor. Diyu shook his head. No, there's still a chance. Desolate Marshal has only comprehended a healing divine power and is of no threat to us. As long as we join forces, we'll definitely be able to kill Desolate Marshal. The Hidden Emperor shook his head gently. I'm already in my twilight years and don't want to take the risk anymore. Don't worry, Hidden Emperor. Diyu said, apart from us, the Corpse Emperor will attack as well. As long as we set up a trap meticulously, Desolate Marshal will definitely die. Furthermore, even if you fail, it won't affect you at all. Given your capabilities, who in the world can find you if you want to hide? Desolate Marshal is a huge treasure. If we win, we can split the treasures in his possession. The creation green lotus steals the creation of heaven and earth. If you can eat the lotus seeds, your lifespan might increase. After a long silence, a voice sounded in midair, "All right." On the green lotus platform, Su Zimo opened his eyes slowly. He could sense the powerful aura from the west as well. Without even checking, he knew that it must be Monk Daming. Right after he became an emperor, Monk Daming followed suit. Su Zimo knew that this was Monk Daming's response to his emperor advancement. Given Monk Daming's pride, how could he be inferior to others? Su Zimo stood up slowly and the creation green lotus transformed into rays of light that surged into his body. An incomparably powerful force reverberated within the green lotus true body and spewed out. Su Zimo could not help but roar into the skies. After comprehending a supreme divine power, the power of a supreme divine power changed one's body, bloodline and even essence spirit significantly. The power of the green lotus true body had at least doubled. Under the baptism of many lesser, greater and even supreme divine powers, the creation green lotus truly advanced to the peak of grade 8. Unfortunately, the creation green lotus had yet to break through to grade 9. Even so, a peak grade 8 green lotus true body was enough to take on an emperor weapon head-on. Su Zimo's roar was not only to vent, but also to declare war. From Demoness Ji's injuries, he could sense the remnant aura of hidden death sex divine powers and dermic arts. He was declaring war towards Du, the hidden emperor and everyone else who wanted him dead. Now that Su Zimo was out of seclusion, even if Du did not take the initiative to look for him, he would look for Du and settle all his grudges. Su Zimo broke out of seclusion and headed west in huge strides, not concealing his aura at all. Desolate Marshal is going to establish his dominance now that he's an emperor. Hurry and follow him. There's bound to be a massive battle. Many Mahayana patriarchs in the ancient battlefield followed closely behind Su Zimo. Although their movement techniques could not match Su Zimo's, his aura burst forth and green rays of light spewed from his head. The patriarchs could not be wrong as long as they chased after the green light. 4 hours later, Su Zimo's eyes lit up. An extremely evil blood beam burst forth from the distant horizon and soared into the skies, clashing against his green glow. Du was here. Dong! Right then, in another direction, there was a loud bang and the ground trembled, as though someone was beating the heavenly drums. Su Zimo glanced sideways. Suddenly, a tall and burly figure leaped out from the distant horizon. The figure carried a gigantic bronze coffin on its shoulder and was charging towards Su Zimo. The figure did not seem like it was walking. Instead, it was leaping. With each leap, it would cross dozens of feet and land heavily on the ground before leaping up once more. The thumping sound was the sound of that person landing on the ground. Before that person arrived, Su Zimo could already smell the nauseating stench of rotting corpses. Corpse Emperor? Su Zimo was expressionless. Even if 10 emperors came today, he would be fearless, let alone just Du and the Corpse Emperor. So, you're Desolate Marshal. You don't look like much with your tender skin, hee. Carrying his coffin, the Corpse Emperor arrived not far away. He glared at Su Zimo and grinned, revealing a row of sharp yellow teeth. Du arrived with a sanguine glow. His cultivation of the blood refinement Fiend's Sutra had already been exposed and he no longer hid it. Are you guys the only ones? Desolate Marshal looked at the two of them with an indifferent expression and asked. The two of us are enough to kill you. Du said slowly, Desolate Marshal, do you think that you're invincible among your peers just because you've cultivated everlasting vitality? Let me tell you, you're far from that. Kill. Du hollered. He withdrew the horsetail whip from his storage bag and whipped towards Su Zimo through the void. The 3,000 silver threads seemed to have transformed into countless sharp blades that wanted to slice Su Zimo into pieces. Fu. With an indifferent expression, Su Zimo closed 2 fingers and conjured a sword art, slashing in Du's direction. TSK. 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 Instantly, 3,000 heaven-slaying sword chi burst forth from his sword finger and collided against the 3,000 silver threads. The moment they collided, the 3,000 silver threads were severed by the heaven-slaying sword chi. Many heaven-slaying sword chi surged against the momentum and stabbed towards Du. Swoosh! A black shadow charged over from the side and blocked the 3,000 heaven-slaying sword chi. Cling! Clang! The 3,000 sword chi struck the black shadow and the sound of metal clashing echoed with sparks. The corpse emperor at the side threw the gigantic coffin in his hands over and blocked the 3,000 heaven-slaying sword chi. Roar! When the 3,000 sword chi collided against the ancient coffin, an extremely violent existence seemed to have been awakened as a deep and furious roar sounded from within. Boom! Boom! A tremendous force struck the coffin and sent the lid flying. A battle corpse with meat wings leaped out of the coffin. It was tall with a green face and bared fangs. Its tongue was extremely long and hung by its mouth with mucus flowing. This should be a Rakshasa corpse. Chapter 1690, Breaking Through the Grotto-heaven. Chapter 1690, Breaking Through the Grotto-heaven. Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. Even he had not expected that the corpse emperor would refine a Rakshasa into a battle corpse. Hee hee. The corpse emperor laughed oddly. Desolate Marshal, I found this battle corpse in a ruin in the ancient battlefield. Before this Rakshasa died, he was an emperor. I'm the first person in history to refine an emperor of the primordial races into a battle corpse. Su Zimo frowned. The battle corpse of an emperor of the Rakshasa race was indeed troublesome to deal with. The corpse emperor was even more smug as he roared in laughter. Desolate Marshal, even if you have extraordinary methods, you can't destroy my battle corpse. Even if you have everlasting vitality, you can't beat the endurance of my battle corpse. Battle corpses were extremely strong and invulnerable against weapons, water and fire. Furthermore, battle corpses could not feel pain at all. Even if they were injured, it would not affect them at all. More importantly, an emperor of the Rakshasa race was equivalent to an emperor of the human race who had comprehended 3 supreme divine powers. His body and bloodline were even stronger than emperors of the human race. Indeed, it would be difficult for Su Zimo to secure victory if he wasted time fighting against the battle corpse. However, he had too many methods and trump cards. Even if it was the battle corpse of an emperor of the Rakshasa race, he had nothing to fear. That's not for sure. Su Zimo looked at the smug expression of the corpse emperor and said indifferently, let's see if your battle corpse or my human emperor's seal is stronger. Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo took out the human emperor's seal from his storage bag and smashed it towards the incoming battle corpse. The human emperor's seal was a great weapon of the heavenly emperor that suppressed everything. Roar! The battle corpse's eyes were widened, but it did not know fear. It withdrew 2 sabers from its back and slashed towards the human emperor's seal. Clang! The 2 sabers collided with the human emperor's seal and let out an ear-piercing sound. The next moment, the 2 sabers were shattered by the human emperor's seal, turning into many shards that flew back and entered the Rakshasa battle corpse. Poof! 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 The Rakshasa battle corpse was almost riddled completely with holes by the shards. However, there was no blood spewing from the wounds of the battle corpse. There was only some sticky pus blood that flowed out, and the wounds healed quickly without affecting the battle corpse at all. Dodge! The corpse emperor shouted hurriedly, don't fight that black seal head-on. Upon hearing the reminder of the corpse emperor, the Rakshasa battle corpse seemed indignant and continued charging towards the human emperor's seal, extending its palm. 5 sharp fingernails popped out from its fingertips like sabers and swords that shone with a cold glint. It wanted to grab the human emperor's seal. Humph! Su Zimo sneered. Even the emperors of the god and barbarian race would not dare to take on the human emperor's seal head-on, let alone an emperor of the Rakshasa race. Bang! The moment the Rakshasa battle corpse's palm collided with the human emperor's seal, it exploded and its entire arm turned into a blood mist. While the Rakshasa battle corpse could not feel any pain, it had already realized how terrifying the human emperor's seal was. The meat wings behind it flapped and it transformed into a dark streak of light, escaping far away. Although the Rakshasa emperor was refined into a battle corpse, its movement technique retained the characteristics of the Rakshasa race and it was agile. Su Zimo controlled the human emperor's seal and chased after the Rakshasa battle corpse. At the same time, his figure flashed and he used heavenly feet and many other escaped divine powers to arrive before the corpse emperor. He said coldly, "Even if I can't kill your battle corpse, I can kill you first." Whoosh! Su Zimo extended his palm and opened his fingers, grabbing towards the head of the corpse emperor. Humph! The corpse emperor's eyes shone with a strange glint and he was fearless as he punched in reverse towards Su Zimo's palm. Bang! The fist and palm collided. The corpse emperor did not retreat at all and defended against Su Zimo's palm strike. Although Su Zimo did not release his full strength for that palm strike, not everyone could withstand it. At the very least, Du could not. To think that the body and bloodline of the corpse emperor would be this strong? Su Zimo's gaze landed on the corpse emperor's wrist. A patch of livor mortis appeared on it. Su Zimo's gaze froze. Hee hee. The corpse emperor laughed sinisterly. Have you finally realized? I'm also a battle corpse, so I'm not afraid of fighting you in melee combat. Suddenly, the corpse emperor changed tactics and turned his fist into a palm. Sharp fingernails popped out from his fingertips one after another as well, shimmering with a green glow as they dug into Su Zimo's wrist. The corpse emperor wanted to pierce Su Zimo's skin and taint the bloodline of the green lotus true body with the poison. However, he had truly underestimated the power of the grade 8 creation green lotus. Even though he was a battle corpse, his fingernails could not pierce Su Zimo's flesh and skin. On the contrary, Su Zimo channeled his blood chi and released the sound of a tsunami, pushing away the corpse emperor's palm and breaking free. Earlier on, when he arrived before the corpse emperor, he smelled the pungent stench of rotting corpses. Su Zimo did not think too much about it. He thought that it was because the corpse emperor was always accompanied by corpses and that was the reason why he had such an aura. Now, he finally understood that the corpse emperor was also a battle corpse. Initially, the corpse emperor was a battle corpse refined by a patriarch of corpse refinement cult. However, he gained sentience. However, the corpse emperor was smart and did not reveal any flaws the entire time. Eventually, he released a fatal attack and killed the patriarch of corpse refinement cult, regaining his freedom. Even so, he was merely a corpse and could not even be considered as alive. You should have died a long time ago. Su Zimo's expression was cold. Today, I'll send you to hell. Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. Right then, Du's voice sounded and a gigantic, dark black hole appeared beside Su Zimo, pulling him in with an extremely powerful suction force. After comprehending 3 supreme divine powers, this divine power of Du was even stronger than it was hundreds of years ago. However, Su Zimo's expression was unchanged within Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. He assumed a lotus position and channeled his blood chi, as though he had vanished entirely. In his place was a jade green lotus. Break! Su Zimo hollered softly. The creation green lotus swayed and released green halos that charged at the barrier of Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven continuously. Du channeled his essence spirit wildly, wanting to stabilize Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven. One after another, the green light released by Su Zimo's creation green lotus was endless and was even filled with a resplendent glow. Both parties were in a stalemate. Under such circumstances, the corpse emperor could not interfere. Not only that, the Rakshasa battle corpse was still scurrying around, chased by the human emperor's seal. Even in Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven, Su Zimo could still control the human emperor's seal with his spirit consciousness. This supreme divine power could not trap him at all. This stalemate consumed a lot of energy from both parties. For Du, he had to sustain this supreme divine power continuously. After half an hour, Diyu finally could not hold on any longer. In Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven, the power of the creation green lotus had just dried up when a stream of everlasting vitality surged and recovered him. If this continued, Diyu would be exhausted to death. Boom! The creation green lotus finally broke through the Grotto-heaven and illuminated the mountains and rivers. Chapter 1691, Purification of the Corpse Emperor. Chapter 1691, Purification of the Corpse Emperor. Even if Diyu comprehended 3 supreme divine powers, he would not be able to suppress a peak grade 8 creation green lotus. Chaos Essence Grotto-heaven shattered and Diyu shuddered. With a terrible expression, he turned to flee without hesitation. Putting away the human emperor's seal, Su Zimo channeled heavenly feet and burst forth with boundless golden light, ethereal wings, zephyr thunder escape and other escape techniques. His speed increased exponentially as he chased after Diyu. The Rakshasa battle corpse was chased everywhere by the human emperor's seal. Now that it was finally free from the threat, it stood on the spot and did not chase. The corpse emperor hesitated for a moment and chose to give up as well. Desolate Marshal has already matured. I'm afraid no one can kill him now. The corpse emperor murmured softly and changed directions, prepared to leave this place and continue his seclusion lest he was found by Desolate Marshal. The moment he turned around, he caught sight of someone. The person wore white robes and his long hair scattered, covering most of his face. His eyes were deep and bright, as though they contained endless wisdom. This was an emperor. He had seen almost all the emperors in the ancient battlefield, but he had never seen this person before. Who are you? The corpse emperor narrowed his eyes and asked slowly. The person who will kill you. The white-robed man said indifferently. The corpse emperor's heart skipped a beat. In the ancient battlefield, there might have been top-tier emperors that lived in seclusion. Look, it's Patriarch Solar Luna. He's not a patriarch anymore. He just became an emperor. During this period of time, many Mahayana patriarchs had already rushed over in disgust when they saw that. The white-robed man was Monk Daming. Just become an emperor? The corpse emperor was relieved and sneered, so, you've only comprehended a single supreme divine power. Even Desolate Marshal can't do anything to me. Who do you think you are? Monk Daming did not argue and walked towards the corpse emperor. Rakshasa, kill him. The corpse emperor said coldly. The Rakshasa battle corpse that was enraged by the relentless pursuit of the human emperor's seal earlier on roared and lunged towards Monk Daming. Monk Daming slapped his storage bag and a small temple appeared in his palm. Tossing it forward, the temple expanded rapidly and turned ancient and mysterious. The Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. The ancient temple appeared and locked the Rakshasa battle corpse that was charging over. Thereafter, Monk Daming put away the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple without even looking at it. Ha ha ha, you're truly ignorant. How can your dilapidated temple? Suddenly, the corpse emperor could not continue. Under normal circumstances, the power of his battle corpse was enough to shatter most dermic treasures and there were no spatial dermic treasures that could accommodate this battle corpse. The evil power in the blood of the battle corpse alone was enough to cripple many dermic treasures. However, the corpse emperor suddenly realized that his connection with the Rakshasa battle corpse had been severed. In the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, the Rakshasa battle corpse reared its head and roared into the skies. An extremely evil aura emanated from its body as it rammed against the walls of the ancient temple continuously, causing the entire place to quake violently. Suddenly, the walls of the ancient temple lit up and emitted a divine Buddhist light. 4 tall phantoms appeared on the wall, towering and wielding different weapons. They glared at the Rakshasa battle corpse in the ancient temple with dignified expressions. The 4 Vajras of the Buddhist monasteries. As though they were alive, the 4 Vajras appeared on the wall and struck their weapons out, suppressing the Rakshasa battle corpse. Although the Rakshasa battle corpse did not have spirit consciousness, it knew how powerful they were and wanted to flap its wings to break free from the encirclement of the 4 Vajras. However, the umbrella in the hands of the infinite hearing Vajra spun and covered the skies, emitting a mysterious halos that landed on the Rakshasa battle corpse like chains. The Rakshasa battle corpse could not break free at all and was restricted on the spot. The divine dragon in the hands of the boundless vision Vajra roared and charged forward, smashing against the Rakshasa battle corpse and shattering all its bones. The strongest thing about the Rakshasa race was their speed. Their physique and bloodline could not compare to the dragon race. The Growth Vajra waved the sword in his hands and slashed forward. The Rakshasa battle corpse was sliced into pieces by the sword and fell to the ground as many pieces. The country pillar Vajra waved his pipa and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. It was as though a massive army had appeared and was charging towards the Rakshasa battle corpse with a terrifying killing intent. The massive army charged over and trampled the Rakshasa battle corpse into dust. Even if the Rakshasa battle corpse was torn apart, the corpse emperor could use a secret skill to piece it back together. However, even he could not recover sludge or dust. The battle corpse had vanished completely. Outside the ancient temple, Monk Daming had a calm expression and said indifferently, "There's no need for you to try and reconnect with your summon. That battle corpse has already been destroyed by me." "Impossible." The corpse emperor was in disbelief. Monk Daming did not explain further and strode forward. His blood chi burst forth and he channeled tsunami blood instantly, suppressing the corpse emperor with a palm strike. The corpse emperor had a menacing expression and cursed internally, "Desolate Marshal is the creation green lotus. Even if I can't hurt him, I can hurt you." He extended both hands and his long green fingernails popped out, grabbing towards Monk Daming's arm. Monk Daming did not dodge or avoid and continued suppressing with his palm. The fingernails of the corpse emperor touched Monk Daming's arm first. Just as he was about to thrust in, he felt the muscles on Monk Daming's arm tremble and release an extremely terrifying power. Pang! 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 The fingernails of the corpse emperor's 10 fingers were snapped. At the same time, Monk Daming slapped the head of the corpse emperor. Crack! The corpse emperor's head shattered and sticky blood flowed out. The essence spirit of the corpse emperor escaped in advance and was not killed by the single palm strike from Monk Daming. Pa! Monk Daming suddenly opened his mouth and chanted Sanskrit. The entire void trembled for a moment. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for that Sanskrit word to cause any damage to emperors. However, secret skills of the Buddhist monasteries were the most effective against evil and filthy things like this. Furthermore, the corpse emperor's body had yet to be formed and his essence spirit was completely exposed to the Sanskrit. It almost dispersed because of that single word. Monk Daming did not chase after the corpse emperor's essence spirit. Instead, he assumed a lotus position and chanted the Rebirth mantra continuously. The light on the corpse emperor's essence spirit gradually dimmed. After the Rebirth mantra ended, the essence spirit of the corpse emperor was destroyed as well. The Rebirth mantra purified the corpse emperor. Many Mahayana patriarchs watched from afar with emotional expressions. The 2 rank ones of the divine power ranking back then were now emperors. To think that one of them would kill an emperor the moment he appeared. I heard that the martial emperor went to chase after the Yu emperor. I wonder how the battle over there ended. Who is the martial emperor? Desolate Marshal, of course. Desolate Marshal established the Tao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. Apart from Desolate Marshal, who else in the world can be worthy of the title of martial emperor? Chapter 1692, Slaying the Hidden Emperor. Chapter 1692, Slaying the Hidden Emperor. Su Zimo glared at Du and sped the entire way. Du's speed was at most the same as Su Zimo's, but he could not afford to waste time. To be precise, an emperor with everlasting vitality had almost endless strength. Unless he crushed Su Zimo or severely injured him with absolute strength, Du would definitely lose if a stalemate was formed. Even the Dragon Phoenix true body could not exhaust the current Green Lotus true body, let alone Du. The two of them sprinted one after another and crossed almost half of the ancient battlefield, encountering many Mahayana patriarchs along the way. Many patriarchs lamented when they saw that. Several hundred years ago, Desolate Marshal was hunted down by the Yu Emperor. To think that after Desolate Marshal became an emperor, the situation reversed instantly. The Martial Emperor rose too quickly. Even the eternal human emperor probably can't compare to him. I heard that the Martial Emperor was originally a mortal in the mortal world of Tianhuang mainland and did not even have a spirit root. He only managed to get to where he is today because a mysterious expert changed his fate for him. What sort of mysterious expert would actually possess such methods? I don't know. Many patriarchs discussed as they chased in Su Zimo's direction. Du's speed decreased. Running with divine powers for a long time was a huge drain on his blood chi and essence spirit as well. However, Su Zimo's expression was still calm. After his essence spirit's blood chi was exhausted, it released endless vitality. When that supreme divine power was released, Su Zimo would replenish his life force continuously from this world and his blood chi and essence spirit would recover within a few breaths. The distance between the two of them was getting closer. Not far ahead was a forest. Du charged in. Su Zimo's eyes flickered. Without hesitation, he followed closely behind and charged into the forest. Looking at Du's back view, Su Zimo closed two fingers and channeled the heaven-slaying sword art, slashing forward. TSK. 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 Suddenly, 108,000 sword chi burst forth from his fingertip, covering the skies densely. Although there were so many sword chi, all of them converged instantly and formed a sword that shone with a blinding light. A terrifying divine power burst forth. All swords are one. This was a greater divine power that Su Zimo had comprehended through the heaven-slaying sword art. The power of the 108,000 sword chi was more than doubled. Buzz! The blade quivered. The sword with a chilling killing intent transformed into a white streak of light and stabbed towards Du's back instantly. Even Du felt his heart skip a beat from the power released by that sword. Hell Blood Shield. Suddenly, Du turned around and channeled his essence spirit. Blood chi filled his body and the power of divine powers surged out, forming a blood-colored gigantic shield before him. Du did not dare to be careless against that sword and released a supreme divine power to defend. This was a supreme divine power that he had comprehended after cultivating the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Clang! The cold sword collided heavily against the Hell Blood Shield. Ripples appeared on the blood shield and it was almost pierced by the sword. The moment Su Zimo attacked, a stone beside him suddenly moved. Someone walked out from within. To be precise, the person did not walk out of the stone. Instead, he transformed from the stone. The person had an ordinary figure and appearance. His eyes were listless and he wielded a pitch-black sword that stabbed towards the back of Su Zimo's head. The entire process was silent. Even when that person attacked, there was no sound at all. His sword was pitch-black and did not reflect any light. His body and sword seemed to have fused into one with his surroundings. The hidden emperor had attacked. At that moment, even if someone opened their eyes or even used their spirit consciousness to sense, they would not be able to see anything. The hidden emperor used a supreme divine power, myriad transformations, to turn into a stone. At the same time, he used another supreme divine power, deceive the world, to conceal himself from the five senses of cultivators. The illusion was created because of the perfect fusion of the two supreme divine powers. Even Du, who was facing the hidden emperor, did not see the latter attack. The pitch-black sword stabbed forward, almost piercing the back of Su Zimo's head. Even if his sword could not pierce Desolate Marshal's head, the power contained by the sword was enough to penetrate Desolate Marshal's consciousness and kill his essence spirit on the spot. Even though Desolate Marshal was about to die under his sword, the eyes of the hidden emperor were still like stagnant water without any emotions. He knew very well that a single fluctuation at that moment, even mentally or through his eyes, would break through that intent and alert the other party. Without such methods, the hidden emperor would not have been able to cultivate to this realm. The moment the black sword pierced the back of Su Zimo's head, a jade-green lotus platform appeared beneath his sword. The creation green lotus. Clang! A crisp sound echoed when the sword struck the creation lotus platform and sparks flew. The hidden emperor shuddered and his palm went numb. Of course, the shock on his body was far less intense than the shock in his heart. Desolate Marshal was actually prepared. How was that possible? He could cheat the entire world with the two supreme divine powers he channeled. Back then, he even used this method to kill an emperor who had comprehended 3 supreme divine powers. Now, how could he not kill an emperor who had only comprehended a supreme divine power? Su Zimo's back was facing the hidden emperor and a look of mockery flashed through his eyes. He did not even turn back. That was because he knew that even if he turned back now, he would not be able to see the figure and tracks of the hidden emperor. Given the methods of the hidden emperor, it was enough to deceive the world and confuse all his senses. However, what the hidden emperor did not know was that Su Zimo cultivated a demon classic and possessed an unfathomable spirit perception. It was fine if the hidden emperor did not attack. Once he attacked, Su Zimo would sense killing intent. After missing his attack, the hidden emperor hid himself and transformed into a green leaf on the ancient tree beside him. Myriad transformations. With a single thought from the hidden emperor, he could transform and change into anything in the world. You've finally appeared. Su Zimo smiled gently. If you hadn't attacked, I wouldn't have been able to find you. However, since you've already appeared, don't even think about leaving. He extended his finger and tapped his glabella gently. He withdrew a whip that shone with lightning and struck the leaf at the side. You. The hidden emperor had no choice but to attack. Although he had cultivated 2 supreme divine powers, he was helpless against Essence Spirit's secret skills and could only circulate his Essence Spirit to fight. Bang! The 2 Essence Spirit's secret skills clashed and the hidden emperor shuddered. He could no longer withstand the channeling of myriad transformations and deceive the world as he revealed himself. Although the spirit vanquishing whip dissipated, Su Zimo's killing move was not over yet. Swoosh! 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 A green glow burst forth from the creation lotus platform. 72 green lotus seeds gathered rapidly and turned into a green sword that slashed towards the hidden emperor. The hidden emperor channeled his second essence spirit's secret skill as well to defend against the green lotus sword. However, it was destroyed by the green lotus sword the moment they collided. A sword beam flashed and entered the hidden emperor's consciousness. The hidden emperor's figure swayed and his eyes dimmed. His life force drained and he fell limply. 2 essence spirit secret skills were released in succession and the hidden emperor was dead. Chapter 1693, Puppets. Chapter 1693, Puppets. The moment the hidden emperor was exposed, Du realized that the latter was most likely doomed. The hidden emperor's methods relied on his surprise attacks. The combination of his 2 supreme divine powers, myriad transformations, and deceive the world, could allow him to cheat the world and kill without a trace. However, once the hidden emperor was exposed, he could not defend against Desolate Marshal's power at all. Even Du, who had comprehended 3 supreme divine powers, could not defend against the current Desolate Marshal, let alone the hidden emperor. A peak grade 8 creation green lotus was even more terrifying than the primordial races. Without hesitation, Du made a prompt decision to abandon the hidden emperor and turn to flee. By the time Su Zimo killed the hidden emperor, Du had already escaped from the forest. Su Zimo sneered and released his massive spirit consciousness. Before long, he locked onto Du's location and chased after the latter. Under normal circumstances, the range of an emperor's spirit consciousness could extend hundreds of thousands of kilometers. However, Su Zimo's spirit consciousness could extend 1,000,000 kilometers away. With a single thought of his spirit consciousness, he could sense the activity in almost half of the ancient battlefield. Emperors were already the peak of Tianhuang mainland. At this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo truly felt the power to control heaven and earth, as though he could look down on all living beings. Su Zimo chased after Du and advanced. He could sense with his spirit consciousness that Du had suddenly stopped. Before long, Su Zimo caught up to him. There was someone standing in front of Du, blocking his path. However, that person did not exist within Su Zimo's spirit consciousness coverage. Monk Daming. From the looks of it, Du seemed to have just fought Monk Daming and suffered a huge loss. His face was pale and his breath carried the smell of blood. Just who are you? Du glared at Monk Daming, who was not far away, and said hatefully, "Why did you help Desolate Marshal and stand in my way?" "I'm not helping him. I want to kill you too." Monk Daming replied indifferently. "I don't know you. There's no feud between us." Du grit his teeth. Monk Daming looked at Du with a fake smile and suddenly asked, "Why? Are you secretly channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra?" Du's expression changed slightly. He could not understand how the other party could sense at the moment he started channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. At that moment, he did not have time to think and released the secret skill of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Blood Tribute. Du roared and an extremely evil and strange power descended on Monk Daming and Su Zimo. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. His bloodline was actually restless and almost evaporated into nothingness by that strange power. He had seen this secret skill in the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra before. When released, the Blood Tribute secret skill could refine the bloodline of other living beings remotely and turn it into his own essence energy. It was extremely domineering and terrifying. The strange thing was that although Su Zimo did not control it intentionally, his bloodline stabilized after the slightest disturbance. Monk Daming on the other end had a calm expression as well. Du's blood tribute had no effect on the two of them at all. How could this be? Du was shocked and his eyes widened in disbelief. He could understand if Su Zimo and Monk Daming released any divine powers or secret skills to defend against his blood tribute. However, that was not the case at all. His blood tribute was completely useless against the bloodlines of Su Zimo and Monk Daming. Blood tribute. Right then, Monk Daming suddenly extended his palm and channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra as well, gripping Du gently through the void. Poof! A blood mist burst forth from Du's body instantly. The essence blood exploded and transformed into a blood beam that flew towards Monk Daming. Monk Daming opened his mouth and swallowed the blood light. At that moment, Du seemed to have aged considerably. Monk Daming released the same secret skill and almost refined Du's essence blood entirely. "So, it's you." Du looked at Monk Daming and smiled bitterly. "Hundreds of years ago, you were the one who stopped me from chasing after Desolate Marshal." Monk Daming remained silent as a form of acknowledgement. Fufufu. Du laughed with a tragic expression. "So what if you kill me? You're just a puppet that's pulled by the strings. Your fate is also in the hands of others." Amazing, truly amazing. Du turned to look at Su Zimo. "Initially, I wondered how capable you were. So, that's all. You're just a puppet as well. Ha 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 ha. This entire world is under his control." In a flash, Su Zimo arrived beside Du and extended his palm, placing it on the top of the latter's head to extract his essence spirit. Soul-searching art. Su Zimo's eyes lit up with a strange black glow. A ball of light appeared in his palm and pitch-black chains grew on it, piercing into Du's essence spirit. Du's memories flashed through Su Zimo's mind one after another. Ever since Du started cultivating, there was no important information from the Qi condensation, foundation establishment and even the conjoint body realm. Everything was normal. However, Du's cultivation could not advance after he became a half-martial ancestor. Later on, his lifespan decreased and he was already in his twilight years with almost no chance of becoming a patriarch. One day, Diyu met someone. Su Zimo could not make out the person's appearance. When he focused his mind and wanted to see the person clearly, the person suddenly turned around and looked at him. It was a strange blood face that smiled at him sinisterly. Boom! Su Zimo shuddered as though he was struck by lightning and jolted awake from the soul-searching art. He looked down. Diyu's essence spirit was already destroyed. He still could not see the person's face clearly. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already broken out in cold sweat. Diyu's final words were similar to Heavenly Secrets' final words. That made Su Zimo want to check out the secret behind it. Unfortunately, it was all for naught. You failed, right? Monk Daming was not far away and asked Su Zimo softly, as though he was not surprised by the outcome. Su Zimo nodded. Everything is about to end. Monk Daming looked into the distance and murmured softly with a conflicted expression, as though he was disappointed, relieved, expectant and guilty. Just as Su Zimo was about to ask, Monk Daming suddenly said, "Right, there's something else I have to remind you." What? Su Zimo asked. Monk Daming said, "There's a monster incarnate in Tianhuang mainland with a mysterious background and unknown background. However, his combat strength is extremely terrifying. Even I wasn't his match at the half-martial ancestor realm." Oh. Su Zimo pretended to be surprised. Naturally, he knew that Monk Daming was referring to the martial Dao prime body. Monk Daming raised his head and looked at Su Zimo before nodding slightly. He turned and left before long. Su Zimo stood in silence. Although the current Tianhuang mainland was relatively peaceful with the 10,000 races coexisting, Diyu's death today gave Su Zimo another sense of pressure. A storm was brewing. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo turned to leave as well, prepared to enter seclusion once more to comprehend more supreme divine powers. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.